interest, which is new in my 3 terms. It doesn't change the fact that that institutional knowledge that RSM is going to bring to the table in terms of already fully understanding all the ins and outs of the town of Drumheller and its business units, I think is certainly can't be discounted, and I have been in the past very, very pleased with the caliber of the work that they provided. And it can't be underestimated as well that had Barb not been delayed by the weather, it's her business unit that interacts with this group more than anything, and she wouldn't be making a strong recommendation if she didn't feel strongly that there were significant strategic advantages to working with an existing organization. And it is pleasing that the price difference compared with the top end of the scale and where RSM comes in is still significantly lower than the majority of requests for proposals, and is only marginally more costly than the Ascent proposal. So I'm going to support the motion.
Fred?
Would we, after this has been awarded, would we go back to Ascend, being their local company, and explain some of the criteria, how we came to our decision, so that maybe in 3 years when we roll around that they've addressed that within their firm, and we've got a better chance of awarding a local firm the business?
And we would do that with any firm that asked us to do that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
The name of the firm before was Collins Barrow.
I'm 100% in agreement with Fred that we need to, because it's a local firm. I'm obviously struggling because I'm all about supporting local, and I guess my only hesitation is because I believe that if you don't have the knowledge, the only way to gain the knowledge is to have an opportunity to apply for it. However, saying that, I guess with what kind of got me is this number of hours with the lead versus the junior. And I truly think that out of respect for them being local, I think that, it would take you and Barb to sit down with them and really fine-tooth comb and explain this, because it's a tough one. Go ahead, Fred.
Would there be an opportunity to look at the 3-year term of this and say, make it a 1 or 2 year and revisit this in a year and look and see whether, because I know that Ascend has annexed a couple more offices in Alberta, one in Airdrie and one in Hinton, and perhaps they'll have the talent base within the province. Is there a reason that we do 3 years at a time?
Well, we do it because there's no matter who does the work, but especially if it's a new firm, it takes a few years it takes you at least a year to kind of get up to speed with everything. You get better pricing if you do 3-year terms minimum. So if that was a suggestion, then the recommendation would be to not approve this, to actually cancel this and then go out for something with a shorter term on it, because it wouldn't be considered to be good ethical practices to actually negotiate a term after you've put out a contract for something longer. You're basically changing the terms of the agreement. So certainly a 3-year term would be reasonable with the idea, and we could review it at that point about going out for a new RFP at that point. So,
okay, thank you.
Could we do the 3-year term and drop with the option of extending?
again, so the absolutely, so the contract is 3-year term and then we would be coming back to say whether or not we recommend to going out or not, to extend or not, so we could simply look at that at that point. So just wanted to make sure, I want to make clear about this piece. So one of the things that concerned us was the fact that in the proposal, which is now 2 months old or so, a little less than that, the experience was all New Brunswick related. The leads were in New Brunswick, and so there was nothing west of New Brunswick listed in their proposal. So that caused some concern to us, because while we're still in Canada, that is a different way. You have to now look at hours of work as when you're actually communicating with each other and some of the other parts. So it was while we do appreciate the fact that Ascend has got store just down the street from us, the work was being directed by somebody that was many provinces away from us. So
Did you have something? Yeah, but I forgot it already. Anybody else?
Actually, no, I do remember.
Oh, go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, so by taking out that one part of the motion, that doesn't complicate the RFD? Like,
well, there's no change to the motion because again, those are optional.
oh, it was strictly
Right,
option.
so it's not like we're doing 3 + 1 + 1. It's 3 years, and then if we decide in 2 years that we think that we want to just stop it at 3 years, then we do.
Yeah, because I totally agree,
Or-
like, we
Or
can't.
if we want to extend it at 4 years, 1 more year we could, or to go to 5.
Right.
So it's not like otherwise we would have done a 5-year contract. So it's 3 plus options
Yeah.
if we want to.
Because we can't cut this agreement now that we've already had them quote on it. Like,
So
we cannot do that.
we can't do a
so-
2-year agreement, right? It's because that's not
Right.
what everyone bid on, so.
No, I agree with that. Thank you.
Jay?
And lastly, just to add, the last time council used an extension, it was entirely driven by council and and what was going on for council at the time, and the desire to stay with a company that would know what was going on when everything else was changing. And so the extension is not meant to protect the accounting firm. The extension is an opportunity for council to not have to make a decision in that particular year about another long-term contract.
Yeah, because I was just figuring this out. This will be the finish in the end of the first year of the next term. So it's not fair to another council to go right in and have to make that decision the first year. So I agree with that. Any other comments? I don't know. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to,
Someone
How's
like to
it
get
going there,
Councillor
Ryan?
Locker.
he's on his way. So do you want us to go now, or do you want us to carry on? Okay, we'll carry on. So let's go over to our review of strategic priorities. And let's start with 6.8.1, Daryl, ICF meeting.
So we've talked earlier this summer about trying to get meetings with all of our neighbors, and what I had talked about was sort of trying to do something with all of council. In talking to our neighbors, what they have done, and council had done this with our IDP has actually set up a committee representation for council. It was Councillor Locker and Councillor Zarisky who were on the IDPs. The other municipalities have extended those responsibilities to look at the ICFs as well before bringing it back to council, just as a way to try to manage only a couple of schedules and not 14 schedules between the two parties. So we are in the process of getting, I've already got confirmations of dates from Nihil and Starland, and just getting some dates for Wheatland right now for October. I'll share those with the two councillors later this week. Make sure we can all meet, but the idea is to actually meet just like we've met with the IDPs, where there's the CAOs meet with the two councillor reps, and then go through some of the issues and then bring those back to council. So unless council would really like to be involved with all of those meetings, that would be my recommendation, is that we move just having councillors Locker and Zarisky do that, and then bringing that information back to council.
Comments? Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. My only concern is that if we start, it's those conversations are bound to begin to look a lot like negotiations, even from the beginning. And council has yet to meet to discuss what its expectations are from those negotiations. So I'd hate to have two representatives wind up starting on what turns out to be the wrong foot, based on what council's expectations of those negotiations would be. So actually, I'm just suggesting that a small portion of Wednesday and Thursday's strategic planning discussion be devoted to what our expectations are for those ICF negotiations.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah.
Christine?
Do you want the alternate there as well?
If you'd like to be alternate, if you'd like to be there, but there's no need, as long as the dates work, so as 2 of the 3 of you are there, that would be great, so.
Okay, so are we gonna just move this to November sometime, Daryl, or? Because we're not gonna wipe her out before the end of the year.
Yeah, I think probably near the end of November.
November
Yeah,
25th?
I suspect that we'll be coming back with discussion at council or committee meetings well before that, but
So then at our strategic, or our action plan, we'll solidify, and if everybody can think about that before, so we can move that along. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. And Dave, I'm going to skip you for a minute. I'm moving those to October 7th meeting then?
I can talk about, so under 6.8.2, the employee innovation options update. So our HR manager is now reviewing the information and with the idea that she's going to bring some suggestions back that we'll present to council on some employee innovation options. I would think that's probably the middle of November, as I say, end of October, but middle of November realistically,
Okay, I'll move that to November 11th,
12th.
12th, sorry. And the other two,
I
are
don't have an update on infrastructure master plan asset, and then on staff vacancies, we are interviewing into utility manager this week. So that's one of our big voids that we've had vacant for more than a year. We've had, even this time, we've had a tougher time filling it. Like we've had a couple of people drop out at the last minute. They reviewed options, looked at competing job offers, et cetera. But we have someone that's been interested in the job for a while, is coming in on Thursday to have a long discussion and meet and greet with us. So quite hopeful about that. So.
Okay, so I'm going to move the infrastructure master plan update to October 7th, and the
Yep.
staff vacancies, then we will move that to October 14th, 15th, I guess? Fair?
Sure.
October 15th for staff vacancies, and October 7th for infrastructure. Okay, let's just move, I guess, that whole trail gap I'd like to leave to the end there, Dave. So do you want to just give us an update on the Parks Recreation Master Plan?
At this point in time, Darren and I have not had a chance to discuss it or start working on it due to other activities that we've both been doing. So at this point, I have nothing to update on that.
Okay, so should we just put this on our action plan? Because you had brought it up that's possibly you want to create something for that. So should we just try to talk about it this year and see what comes?
I would
in our
suggest
action
that's
plan?
a good idea. Whatever we end up doing for the master plan for the parks, we'll have to include some of the flood mitigation discussion because of where our parks are located. So I would suggest
Yeah.
that we
So it's
stop.
pretty hard to even
Exactly.
work on that right now. So let's just quit talking about it for now until we get flood mitigation, and everything involved.
Okay.
Okay, can we do quick here? Can you give us a downtown revitalization update, Sean?
I can, Your Worship. So we've, our RFP closed for downtown revitalization on August 22nd, and a detailed review was conducted on September 6th of all the proponents. We had 12 submit for this particular RFP. And then we honed down the top 3, and we conducted interviews with each proponent between September 18th and 20th. So the successful proponent was O2 out of out of Calgary, and they scored the highest on the technical aspects of the RFP, which would include things like qualification of personnel, methodology, and quality proposal. And they scored the second highest on project schedule and financial. So they're actually the second lowest in that RFP. So next steps for us, we're going to have a meeting with them in October to better define the schedule and start scheduling stakeholder meetings, as well as have a meeting with council and administration on those next steps.
Okay, questions? All right, carry on. It's nice to see this moving along. And you might as well give your community profile update right now as well.
So the community profile is in fact completed. About 160 hours worth of work went into this, and it is in fact the town folio site, which is our community profile. It's fully integratable with our website. I've just been holding off until our new website's been designed, which would be a good launch, but we still have that available for information for anyone that wants to look at it as a standalone piece. In terms of community profiles for specific groups, I think that's more of a marketing document. So the one for specifically for seniors, the verbiage is completed. We're just trying to drop in some pictures of some seniors activities in the community. And I also have a group that has a lot of experience attracting seniors to communities, reviewing this document to see if there's anything else that they can add to it. And the completed document will be available by the end of October, fully designed and completed. And that will go for well as the nursing content. I've got some folks in that has expertise in doctor and nurse recruitment, reviewing the work that I've done so far, and that will be available on November 15th. That will be completed as well.
Okay, so October 28th, we should see the seniors one. And you're saying November 12th, we should see the medical one?
I would probably say closer to the 23rd, if that's okay. Just because I'm working with other people, so sometimes if their schedules get jumbled, but I will promise I will do my best to have it ready for the 12th.
That's all I can ask for, because I know I keep getting asked for that at my medical committees, so that would be great. Okay, Ryan, are you rolling?
We're ready and rolling. Move our backup system out of the way here because it appears. Sorry, Sean, I'm blinding you. Well, good evening, and thank you very much, Mayor, Council, Administration, and everybody else that's joined us today. If you don't know who I am, my name's Ryan Semchuk. Today I am heading up the local branding committee, and we'd like to provide a report today as we've been working on a project for the last approximate 60-ish days or so on the Drumheller brand, and would love to provide you guys with an update today. A couple things real quick. I'd please ask, obviously, that questions be left till the very end so that I can keep moving through the presentation and the pieces as quick as possible. It is a little bit of a longer presentation today, and at the end we'll leave a Q&A open, and I'll be able to answer any questions, concerns, and comments that you guys have. Without further ado, before we start, there's a couple rules I'd like to embark today. We're talking about the Drumheller brand. It's been a little while since this has been done, and we want to make sure that this is done properly, correctly, and it's going to be something that the whole community is proud to get behind and adopt for the next 15 to 25 years, as it is going to be the future of our community. So my first rule is we just need to leave our egos outside the doors. I think we're all pretty good at that, but just a quick reminder. Number two, the past, whether it was good or bad, truly weaves the story of our community today, but let's not get hung up on what has happened and allow it to stop us from moving into the future. Number three, let's have an open mind. And number four, remember the word empowerment, because it's important today and for the future of our community. The other document I just want to throw up here real quick is a book I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. You've seen Doug Griffith talk, The 13 Ways to Kill Our Community. This is a pretty near and dear concept to my heart, and I truly do believe that it's something that we just need to keep in mind as we work through this new sort of information that you're going to take in today. So yeah, the 13 ways, I don't need to go all the way through them, but I wanted to just give that as a little bit of a reminder for you guys that it is important, and just keep those 13 ideas in mind. without further ado, I'd like to get right into the Drumheller branding report. And today is going to be not about the town of Drumheller. We're going to be talking about the Drumheller Valley and some of the findings that we've come through, and a little bit about the team, what we've been up to, how we got where we are today, and the moment everybody's been waiting for, the recommendation and the direction forward. So I'm excited to share that with you guys today. Our project team, well, we were put together as a community group. As you guys know, the town of Drumheller was looking for a new logo, a new brand, started down the path, and we decided to get the community involved with this process and some local experts to help manage and move this thing along. So we have a volunteer-led brand committee, which is made up of some local movers and shakers and members from various parts of the community. And we were able to collect and gather a whole bunch of data from surveys, focus groups that provide us with quantitative and qualitative data and insights that helped sort of inform where our decisions are today and authenticate or confirm some of the directions and way we're thinking. Little quote I like to share from Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think that's very true. It's a perception. Drumheller has some perceptions, and I think there's some really good ones that we don't want to ignore. And we'll be sharing some of those details. But just a little quote to kick it off today. So I did provide the wrap-up report in your documentation. So this is a little bit of more visual version of that report for you guys today to review. Our project summary: Drumheller Valley is truly an amazing place to visit, work, and live in. Although we're not a large booming metropolis, we do have a ton of things to offer. And our community has a very unique history, from the evolution of dinosaurs, agriculture, coal mines, oil and gas, and now tourism. Really truly shows how resilient not just the town, but this whole valley has been over the years. The Drumheller Valley has an ambitious and youth-led vision for the future. We aim to ensure that both youth and young families flourish here, that seniors thrive here, cultural growth is encouraged, environmentally conscious living is promoted, and we elevate our strong sense of community. Now, the Drumheller Valley is resilient. I've used that word a few times because through some of our focus groups and discussions with the community, it was a common word that came up when I was having conversations with people. But we also know that change is not easy. But we do, all of us, I think, can agree that we want to move our community forward, and we want to move that in a positive direction. We don't want to let the existing NIMBY people, the not in my backyard, or the cave citizens against virtually everything, because typically they just lag behind reality, and they're also very difficult to change. It's not that we're ignoring anybody, but I think the time has come now to really take the positive movement forward with the Drumheller community. Big thing is, there's a lot of people here that don't believe that Drumheller is a tourism destination, and we're here today to prove them wrong and show them why. And of course, this report will show some validation on the positive mindset that I'm talking about. I know Drumheller discussion can be negative. There's a lot of negativity around the community and coffee shops and things like that, but today is not about that. Today is about the actual facts that we know about Drumheller and that we're proud to share. We know the community needs to refresh our brand story. So we can share it with local, national, and international audiences to answer the question why. Why is Drumheller Valley a truly amazing place to visit, work, and live in? Because I know all of us here today believe that. So why now? Well, let's start with sort of the history and the story of the Drumheller Valley, and not just the town. We've evolved in many different ways, incorporated as a village back in 1923, officially as a town, and over a 15-year period, Drumheller's population actually increased from about 857% which was about 312 people in 1916 to almost 3,000 people in 1931, and shortly after we became a city. This era during that time also included the discovery of dinosaur fossils, while we had a very active religious community around here, still do today. The start of paleontology in the region, agricultural growth, and of course, the massive coal boom that took over the valley. Just a few history photos to share. It was a different place back then. The city of Drumheller amalgamated with the municipal district, the MD of Badlands number 7 on January 1st, 1998. This was about 5 years after I moved to Drumheller. And that's at the time really created the current town of Drumheller. And some of the reasons of this amalgamation were, of course, a lot of the similar municipalities in the region had very common surrounding development concerns, very similar scenery and landscape, and they were all kind of located along the Drumheller Valley. It's not very often that a city like that would amalgamate and suck in so many different mini communities into one area. During the amalgamation, the municipality opted for town status rather than city status. I remember this being young. There was the big talk about why is this going on? And a big portion of that was, of course, so that the highways would remain the responsibility of the province of Alberta. As a result of the amalgamation, Drumheller actually became the largest town in Alberta in terms of land area at 107 square kilometers, which is massive, 41 square miles. That resulted in us absorbing 6 hamlets, which were under the jurisdiction of the MD of Badlands number 7, which included Cambria, East Cooley, Lehigh, Knackmine, Rosedale, and Wayne. We had already previously absorbed the hamlets of Bankview, Midland Vale, which we all know as Midland today, Newcastle, and North Drumheller during some annexation periods. Other locations that were absorbed during this time also were Ariel, Nehill, Rosedale Station, Monarch, and Willow Creek. So there's a few other communities that all sort of pull in. And we all know those areas, whether you drive in at the west end of town or the east end of the valley. We know as citizens that that's part of Drumheller. But not every visitor and every person in the valley knows that. Just recently during this exercise, I had a person ask me, why is the Welcome to Drumheller sign outside of East Cooley? Clearly, they just don't understand the, it's not very simple. It's a very messy and complicated process that kind of happened over the years. And whether those communities wanted to be a part of it or not, we're here today and we're glad that they are. The uniqueness of this also shows some of the underlying history, and part of the reason why maybe the whole valley from end to end hasn't had a true sense of community pride on a daily basis. Now, that doesn't mean there's no pride around here, because we do know some amazing things happen, especially when our community is in danger, things like the floods, fires, families in need, all those sort of things. No doubt in my mind, doesn't matter what part of the community or the valley that you're in, we rise to the occasion and we truly show people the pride and the unity that we have. But we're trying to create this so that it's not just when things are happening, it's every day, it's part of our DNA. And more than ever now, we need an all-inclusive story that the valley can be proud to share, regardless of where you live, where you came from, what's your cultural background, or which community you live in within the area. The next few slides I'm going to be sharing are just some very quick census data, as it helps sort of reaffirm the cultural diversity that we're starting to see across our community. So of course, very quick, this is all the 2016 census data. We can see with my fancy, thank you for the pointer, 0 to 14, makes up about 15%, 15 to 64, about 67.3%, and 65 to 17.5%, making up a pretty big portion of our community. So there isn't one group that's more important than the other. As I'd mentioned, whether you're a young family, whether you're a senior trying to retire, or you're a middle-aged person like me having a family here, we want to make Drumheller truly the best place to work, live, and visit. Quick look at some of the ethnic origins for population in our area. Of course, North American. European is huge. Although they're small, there is some data from the Caribbean, South America, Latin Central America, Africa, and the Asian origins. So we do have a diverse cultural background. Also looking at the years that immigration happened throughout the community. Obviously, there was a big boom before 1981. We had some growth through the 90s. We had a bit of a downturn in the economy during this time. And then bam, all of a sudden again, the community has seen some pretty big growth. And we've seen that with the growth of the Philippine community in the town and a variety of other great local organizations and communities that live and breathe here in the community. Also shows some of the birthplaces of some of our immigrant population living here. Again, Europe, Africa, and Asia being some of the large parts. So we're not all, like me, a Ukrainian European coming into the community. We've got a pretty diverse culture around here. So just some status and some data that I wanted to provide to sort of affirm the cultural sort of discussion that we're having today. So talking back on this project today, what is the objective of our branding project? Well, first off, number one, the objective was to review and revitalize the Drumheller Valley brand to ensure that it reflects our community today and for the vision of the future. We don't want this to be redone in 5 years. We don't want you guys to waste time and money again during the next election and after new people in. We really want to get that true sense of pride and embed it across the community. Number two, well, the town was looking for a new logo. So we want to get you guys that new logo and really align that with the brand story. We also know that we have some other complementary brands that are going to be very important along this process as we continue to share the story of the brand. One of them is Travel Drumheller, our local destination marketing organization. They have a great brand and they're doing a great job of promoting this community outside of Drumheller. And their focus is really to grow that shoulder season and continue to ensure that we've got people coming here and visiting our wonderful location. We've also got the Drumheller Advantage, the economic development and business attraction brand that our teams put together here at Town Hall. And we couldn't be more proud to have a professional looking brand that we can now use to attract businesses, corporations, and give people a reason to invest in our community. And as we heard earlier, there's a downtown revitalization plan, and this is going to be another key piece that we don't want to forget about. But as they get closer and closer to seeing what's going to happen with downtown Drumheller, we want to make sure that that's part of this story and brand as we move forward. Real quick, just showing you the three logos that I was discussing. We've got the Drumheller Difference, which is really all about opportunity. The middle brand, which we haven't shared with you today, which is our community brand, the story of the Drumheller Valley. And we've got Travel Drumheller, which is our tourism and destination marketing organization, which is going to help our visitors uncover wonder of the Drumheller Valley. So it's been a while since there's been a rebrand for Drumheller. I think it's been over probably 20 years. This is just my guess, since a logo's been touched or tweaked. Nothing wrong with that, but I think now is the time. There's no better time to get it up to speed and also not only just give you guys a logo, but provide the community with a visual identity guide that can be shared and used across the community. So it's not just a logo on your website. This is going to be a document and a logo that the community, whether they're from East Cooley, whether they're from Rosedale, or whether they're from downtown Drumheller, can get behind, promote, and be proud of. So, of course, the number one question is, how did we get here and why did we come to this decision and what was some of the process behind that? Well, we started looking at a few different things. The branding committee led some analysis and research, which included reviewing some other municipal brand case studies, places like Kenora, Ontario, Okotoks, Mississauga. There was a variety of other locations that we looked at to see some successful use cases and success stories that we could base some of our decisions around. We also reviewed industry best practices, and working with an organization that I've had the ability and pleasure of working with on cult brand statuses and some of the cult brands that they work with, and really using that lingo and analysis to get us where we are today. So how do other cities tell their stories? Well, the first one is the cult brands. And I just thought I'd pull this up because this shows you some of the large, what I would consider cult or corporation brands that are out there. And it's interesting because cult brands all do some things in common. There's some common threads behind them, whether they're a retail brand, whether a lifestyle brand, or they're a community brand. These core principles apply. First one is a cult brand needs to be remarkable. I think we do a pretty good job of this. After not only collecting the stories that I know about, but going through the data from the survey, the focus groups, and some of the information, we've got some extraordinary stories here. We've got some extraordinary products and services. And there's no doubt in my mind when people come here, they want to come back and tell their friends about their experience here in Drumheller. So that's a big one. Number two, cult brands have purpose. We want to make sure that it's not one group driving this, it's the full community and everybody can get behind it. Cult brands are driven by a powerful ethos, so this is important to remember. Number three, cult brands are inspirational. It starts with the culture. Cult and culture kind of go hand in hand. And it's the culture in this building, it's the culture in our community, it's the culture that we all walk and talk every day. It's all about inspiring from the inside out. We can tell people all we want, but until we actually have proof of the pudding, our words aren't going to speak louder than actions. As we all know, actions speak louder than words. The next one is a brand's got to be relatable. Not only does the community need to be able to relate to it, but our visitors, our guests, and people experiencing us, they need to be able to relate. And most cult brands do this by personifying some human attributes and applying that to how they talk, how they promote their feeling and promote their brand and communicate to the different audiences that they're trying to captivate. Cult brands also need to get involved. And this is called co-creation. And in the retail space, this is called listening to your customers. And the town of Drumheller and our valley, it's kind of the same thing. We need to listen to our customers, which are not just the visitors coming here, but also our local residents. They all pay taxes here. They all shop and live here. And, our visitors are the same way. So we want to make sure that we're listening to them and we're continually making changes so that we can move ourselves forward. And the last one is be pervasive. We want a brand that's everywhere. We don't want this to just be the town's brand. We want this to be East Cooley's brand. We want this to be Rosedale's brand. We want this to be the brand of the Drumheller Valley. From tip to toe, edge to edge, this is going to be everywhere for the whole community to get behind. Now, a few other points I wanted to bring up was as we were going through some of the successful studies from other municipalities, we actually found that there's 7 things in common, regardless of where we looked and which city, province, and country we looked at. So the first one was starting with a clear, compelling story and idea. And I framed that a little bit at the beginning of this presentation today. There's a pretty unique story about the Drumheller Valley, and it's not just about the town of Drumheller, it's this whole valley. Number 2, we only want to focus on key factors that differentiate us from the other communities that we're competing with. I hate to say it, but we are. We're competing with every community in Alberta, in Western Canada, and really internationally, because Drumheller, as we all know, is known around the world as the dinosaur capital of the world. So there's no doubt people have their eyes on us. We've got some uniqueness here. We also have some great things, though, but they may not be unique to Drumheller. I'm not saying they're not important, but we want to make sure that they are still included. Number 3, we want to highlight key sales hooks. We also heard this from Roger Brooks when he did his community assessment. It's what's the selling feature for Drumheller? What's going to set us apart from Hannah or Cochrane or any of these other locations where people can go visit? Number 4, we want to make sure that we target our key audiences. We need to know who we're communicating with and stay authentic in those messages. Especially with the millennial generation nowadays, they have a BS meter bigger than anybody. They can sniff through and they know with a marketing message, a social media post, whether it's authentic or it's fake. So we want to make sure that we're staying authentic to the story of our community. Number 5, this is a pretty big piece. We want to encourage and make sure that all our residents are proud to share the brand story. We can't just have it a top-down, this is what is now, this is the way it is, everybody's got to bow down to it. We want to make sure that everybody buys into it and is truly proud to talk about the brand and the story of Drumheller. Number 6, got to keep it simple. Can't overcomplicate it. We don't want to get hung up on all sorts of back and forth. We want to keep it simple and give you guys something that's going to be great. And number 7 is probably the most important, and I'm going to reiterate this again at the end. We want to ensure a proper rollout and communication plan in place so that this can be truly embedded in all facets of the community. So, ask the experts. Of course, we wanted to hear from the community. We didn't want to just start down this process, get here today, and all of a sudden, you know, everybody's asking, well, who did we talk to? And did you talk to the community? Did you get feedback? Yes, we did. So residents were encouraged to engage and be part of this process. We did 2 things in the limited time that we had, and that was, the first one was we sent out a public survey. We got 497 responses back on the survey, which at first, some people thought that wasn't great, but when I compare it to a lot of the other surveys that are done in this community, it's fantastic. It was amazing. And the amount of data, which I would love to provide to any of you guys if you would like to see the final data reports, was astonishing. The feedback from both residents and some visitors really reaffirmed all the things we're thinking and talking about today. We also did 5 focus groups. These were in-person community sort of qualitative activities. So these were not just a question and fill out a questionnaire. We actually did some visual activities and really tried to hone in on feelings, emotion, and photos that inflict Drumheller today and the Drumheller of tomorrow. So it was some really good information. Obviously, there was a general consensus that the current brand, logo, and visual identity for Drumheller is a little outdated, it's a little generic, and not reflective of the true community today. The current logo is old, the color scheme doesn't really make sense, doesn't provide the feeling that our residents have about our community. And our direction from you guys was, of course, to create a new logo that helps promote all the exciting changes and possibilities for the future of our community. So real quick, of course, here's our current sort of branding for the community. We've got the consistent Drumheller media release, which we see, the 2 sort of icons on either side, which I blew up here, which you can take in. And then, you know, even just looking at the website, having a white image on the back of a site, you know, it's just, we can do so much better, and we're excited to be able to work with you guys on bringing something that's going to be professional, modern, and bring Drumheller together in a great way. Now, of course, looking at the data, we wanted to share some of the insights that we got from the community, and this was really, really cool. So what people think about Drumheller. First one, the people in Drumheller are amazing. We heard all the way through from all the data, even for people that had a negative experience here in one part or another, they still said people here are open, welcoming, and full of unique stories. So I wanted to reiterate that with you guys. Number 2, we heard this time after time, whether it was about the hoodoos, whether it was about the river, whether it was about the valley. We are surrounded by some amazing scenery and natural beauty. There's not a lot of places in the world like it, and we're pretty damn lucky to be where we are today. Third thing we heard, it's a great place to raise a family. There's great health care here, education, recreation, and family programs. And it sounds like all the updates over the last, 6 to 8 months we've heard, they're just getting better. And we're excited about that. So thank you guys, and thank you the community for doing that. The fourth thing we heard is Drumheller is the heart of Canadian Badlands. When people think Badlands, there's two locations that come up, Drumheller and Dinosaur Provincial Park. So we need to make sure that we are taking advantage of that, because at the regional and international level, the Canadian Badlands brand, in my opinion, is going to be just as iconic as the Rockies in the next 5 years. And the Rockies are full, and I can tell you China, Australia, and Europe are looking for other places to visit, and we've got it right here in our backyard. So, the Drumheller Valley brand ingredients. So these are sort of the three core elements that came out of all the data. And we're going to go into some more details in just a little bit on these three pieces. But I want to share them with you today. Dinosaurs, natural beauty, and endless opportunity. So keep those in mind. We also heard that Drumheller has some amazing assets and attributes that make up our community. First one, I shared this earlier, and I think we don't talk about this enough. Although it causes probably some difficulties for the infrastructure department some days, Drumheller is Alberta's largest town in square kilometers. It's amazing. We have so much space here, and I've actually even heard that we've got just as much riverfront property as Calgary. Like, it's crazy. Number two, we cannot deny this. We have the world's largest dinosaur here. We are officially the dinosaur capital of the world, and we have the world-renowned Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology. That's not going anywhere. We need to take advantage of that. Number three, again, we heard the heart of the Canadian Badlands. Number four, Badlands AMP and the Canadian Passion Play. Two great assets to this community, and it's amazing how many people have come here because of those two reasons. Number five, the coal mining history. It wasn't that long ago we had the mining centennial in this community. We've got the Atlas coal mine, which is now a national historic site. And we have some amazing stories that are embedded from whether it's Dorothy, Wayne, East Cooley, Rosedale, all the way through to Knack Mine, Midland. There's coal mines and stories of the coal mines all through this valley. And it's a pretty important piece and a pretty cool story to share. Number six, the natural beauty of the River Valley. And number seven, we heard it again, the great community facilities like the pool, the BCF, arena, and more. Some amazing things for this small town of just under 8,000 people. It's pretty remarkable. Now, of course, we need to focus on our main selling point, but that doesn't mean the rest of the community isn't important. Whether it's the community groups helping like Rotary and all the service groups we have here, whether it's the other attractions like the go-karts, the bumper boats, the Homestead Museum, all of these pieces add and weave in to the story and give people a reason to come here and spend more time here other than just the Royal Tyrrell Museum. Dinosaurs are kind of our hook, but we've got a whole bunch of stuff that can keep them here for 2 or 3 days if we really, really, really focus on it. So I'm excited about that. The reason I'm talking about some of this stuff is because when it comes to branding, we all think about branding and experience as when the people are here. Whether they're at the Tyrrell Museum, that's an experience. Whether they go to the Atlas coal mine, or whether they're just here visiting friends and family and taking in July 1st or a variety of other great events and activities that happen throughout the community, at the plaza, downtown, all of those sort of things. But micro moments are pretty important. And a micro moment in this digital age is an intent-rich moment when a person turns to their device to act on a need, whether that's to find something out, to discover it, whether that's to go do something, or whether it's maybe to go buy something. These micro moments are pretty important to understand and keep in mind as we work through this brand process. There's 4 sort of key moments that are really important in sort of the customer cycle or the discovery cycle. So the first one is the I want to know moments. This is when somebody's exploring or researching. Maybe they're not necessarily researching or purchasing something at that moment in time, but they've got an intent. And the easiest way to relate to this is when you're planning a vacation. We all plan a vacation. We probably spend more time than we think planning that vacation, because you start with the idea of I want to go somewhere, and then you start sort of researching and looking in, where do I want to go, what do I want to do, and you spend a lot of time doing that. And it's quite remarkable how many people and how we forget that part of our perception of a brand is during this discovery stage. This is, what are people seeing in TripAdvisor? What are people seeing in Google? What are they seeing when they look at the Town of Drumheller's website? What are they seeing when they go to Travel Drumheller's website? We want to make sure that wherever they're going and finding the information about Drumheller, we're telling the same story. We're providing them with that same opportunity. Number two, obviously I want to go moments. This is when somebody's actually looking for a local business, so they're here. Okay, I want coffee. Oh, I want to kill an hour this afternoon. I want to do this. I want to do that. Another area where sometimes Drumheller falls a little short. We have so many amazing things here, but we need to do a better job of cross-promoting and making sure that we have that information available to the visitors and our residents in the moment when they're looking for it. I want to do. That includes washrooms, Tom. Hey, it's a good point. Sorry. I want to do moments. This is when somebody wants to help completing a task or try something new. Maybe they're looking to explore the valley. They've never been kayaking. Maybe they've never walked down the coal mine. Maybe they've, there's a variety of things to look at. And then, of course, the last piece, which drives the economy, I want to buy, whether that's retail, whether that's gas, whether that's food, hotels. There's a variety of things that come into play in these micro moments. So we want to make sure that we've got the brand, the message, and the community behind this, so that we can position ourselves in these micro moments with, whether it's the town, whether it's Travel Drumheller doing marketing, or business attraction going out and getting the new investment and opportunities into the community. And this really just shows you the customer journey map. Back in the day of sales and understanding things, there was sort of the sales funnel. Everything was funneled down. Well, it's more of a circle nowadays. And there's not really a right way to move around the circle after you've gone through it one time. Awareness is really the big piece, and this is where Travel Drumheller really is focused on the awareness of the community. Moving into search. Okay, how do we find it? How do I get there? How do I travel there? Do I use Google Maps? Do I print out and hand draw on a map? What am I doing? How am I getting there? And how am I finding it? Then there's the consideration. Okay, now I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at this. What other factors are coming in to make me really consider this idea? Then there's the purchase. Then hopefully they have a good experience, which creates some loyalty and turns them into an advocate for the community. Sometimes along this last little area, something goes sideways, and then they're back kind of either considering or searching because we didn't provide that full experience that they were looking at. And when I say experience, I mean the moment they search us on Google, to the second that they drive into the valley, to the minute they're trying to find a washroom downtown Drumheller, to the minute they're at the Royal Trail Museum. All of that is the experience of Drumheller. It's not just one place, it's not just one person, and it's not just one area. The experience starts from the moment they start thinking about coming here, moving here, or investing here. All right, enough of the marketing lingo. We're going to get back into the brand story here today. So as I mentioned earlier, the brand story is made up of three fundamental pieces, and we're going to cover those real quick. First one is dinosaurs. Now, I'll admit, through this exercise, this was a bit of an interesting conversation because, of course, we know Drumheller is dinosaurs. We've got dinosaurs everywhere. We've got the world's largest dinosaur, and there's some amazing things branded around dinosaurs. And I think it would be a shame for us to move away from dinosaurs. It's definitely one of those things that cannot be easily replicated by any community out there. It's not like tomorrow Hannah can become the dinosaur capital of the world. And there's some pretty big investment into that whole dinosaur world, which I'll talk about in a second. So obviously we have the perception that our community is the dinosaur capital of the world. It doesn't matter where I go. I have through my work, I travel a lot, whether that's Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the US. I travel quite a bit with my new position. And everybody, everywhere I go, I always ask where I'm from. I say Drumheller. First thing out of their mouth is either dinosaurs or you're the world capital, the dinosaur capital of the world. Those are the first two things that anybody outside of the community says about Drumheller. When you search Google, it's undeniable that dinosaurs and the dinosaur capital of the world comes up. So we can't ignore that. We have to embrace this ingredient as part of our brand. Doesn't mean the rest of the things aren't important, but this is our big selling feature for our community. The reason I say that is because there's a massive amount of international investment into youth education, paleontology in schools, not just locally, but regionally and nationally. And Hollywood tends to produce a new dinosaur movie and some buzz around dinosaurs every few years. So why wouldn't we take advantage of that? And we did. The last Jurassic Park movie, Travel Drumheller purchased a wonderful and amazing commercial that played in every theater in Western Canada before the Jurassic Park movie, promoting our community. What's cooler than that? Kids excited about dinosaurs. I don't think there's a kid out there that doesn't get excited about dinosaurs. And if there's one thing we've learned, if the kids are into it, mom and dad are going to be into it. So it's another check mark on that side. Again, I want to reiterate, it doesn't mean the rest of the valley isn't important. And that's why we use them as secondary attributes to help keep people here longer and experience what all of Drumheller has to offer. Number 2, the natural beauty in the Badlands. Again, we've talked about it. We've got so much space here. We've got the hoodoos, we've got hiking, we've got biking, we've got kayaking, fishing, and there's nothing more remarkable than that feeling, especially for a first time coming into Drumheller, when you're driving through the bald prairies, wondering where you're going, and you start to take that descent down into the community, and you look across and you see the valley walls, you see the river valley, it's lush and green, and you get this tingling down your spine of, I'm here in Drumheller. And I still get that after leaving and traveling for a few weeks and coming back. There's no better feeling than coming home and driving into the valley. And that's what we want people to feel. Number 3, endless opportunity. This, the brand committee was kind of going back and forth on this one. It's like, you hear in branding, everything needs to be unique. What's unique? Well, we started talking about endless opportunity, and the discussion was, well, you can say that about any community. Well, let's take a step back and look at the facts again, because Drumheller has endless opportunity. We've got, and I think this is a very, very conservative number, because we can't prove that it's bigger at this point, but 500,000 visitors coming here every year, probably more, because those numbers are just based off of the Royal Tyrrell Museum and the world's largest dinosaur. But if we were actually traffic counting and looking at all the people that are coming out here for a motorcycle trip just to Wayne, coming to camp out here and experience the river valley, whether they're here visiting friends and family and they've done the museum last year, there are people coming here that don't just go to the Royal Tyrrell Museum. So my guess is this is probably closer to 1 million people a year, but I don't want to get too crazy because I don't have the data yet to be able to prove that to you. Also, it doesn't matter whether you're looking to start a business here, whether you're looking for a great destination to get away and relax to, tons of opportunity down here. We've got, I think now more than ever, there's more support, there's more courage, and there's more positivity behind downtown Drumheller, behind the community, behind new business in here, getting things out like the Hoodoo Hydration Station, the plaza. There's some amazing things happening in this community, and it's all thanks to everybody moving forward, making some hard decisions, and working on this endless opportunity. And I think as the Drumheller Advantage gets out there, they're going to be able to promote this even more from an economic standpoint on getting new business and new ideas flourishing in our community. Again, I got to say it, they're complementary brands. These are going to be the 3 pillars that help move our community forward. So, the next few slides, I'm going to, and I'm getting close to the end. I know this is a bit of a longer presentation. But the next few slides are going to really position and show you guys why we're thinking what we're thinking today. I call it the manifesto. This is going to be the story of Drumheller, and this is going to be the story that we can use to share, unite, and get everybody behind this message that we want to put out. So I'm going to put on my radio voice, my voiceover voice, and I'm going to read this out for you guys as we work through it. So, the Drumheller Valley is truly the heart of the Canadian Badlands. It's a grateful heart that longs for an abundant future. The Drumheller Valley is a community of confident skills and varied interests. It's a safe place for its citizens. It offers quality services found in urban settings, but it's rural in its embrace. It's enterprising and it's resilient. It's committed to becoming a welcoming home for residents and visitors alike. The Drumheller Valley is full of stories and longings, stories taking us back hundreds of millions of years, stories of the nomadic people living here since the last great ice age, stories of men who changed the course of human history, stories of an expanding universe, stories of vast migrations luring miners to their fortunes and to their deaths, stories of the settlers who came here to start new lives, stories of ever-eroding hills and adaptive flora and fauna, the stories of overcoming the bad in the Badlands. The Drumheller Valley is not just a home, but it's a sought-after destination. The community has attracted scientists and artists, families and lone travelers. In winter, it waits with snow-covered slopes and the canyon walls shrouded in shadows for the summer's blaze of glory and shimmering mirages. Today, the Drumheller Valley's heart is the citizens who tell these stories. The ones who travel the globe researching evidences of the stories told in the valley, or those who stay at home to enjoy the friendship of neighbors and to welcome you. Come celebrate with us in festivals and country living. The Drumheller Valley invites the world to hear its stories, see its beauty, and share in its community values. It invites you to be a citizen for a day or even maybe a lifetime. Come away for a little while from the stresses of the urban pressures or the sadness of the faltering communities. Let us become part of your story and you a part of ours. Bring your children who with wide-eyed wonder will travel to times only imagined. Spend hours floating down our lazy river or exploring the historic walls of the valley. Enter into the travails of coal miners or visit the sacred places rich with the stories and fossils. Why visit any other place when you have long to hear? Why live anywhere else when we have premier services to enrich your family? Why establish your business anywhere else in the world when we are connected to the rest of the world? And the Drumheller Valley is a quaint and distant place, but we are a global center attracting talent and visitors from around the world. And I have a couple visuals to help with this. Shows you some of the amazing people, some of the amazing stories and storytellers that we have. And this is just a very, very small fraction of the amazingness that we've found in the community. And going through all these images, I was pretty proud, looking back, whether it was from 20 years ago, 2 years ago, or today. There's been some pretty amazing things happening, and we have some pretty amazing people, so it really, truly does show what Drumheller is about. So, as I edge to the moment you've been all waiting for, I know, this is killing you guys, and I love it. I have to really bring this up. There's 3 phases to this branding exercise, and today we're here sharing sort of the first one. This is the discovery, the strategy, and the plan. What we'd like to do today is present a concept and a new idea to you guys today, and hopefully you'll empower us to move forward, move the idea forward, and get the community behind the brand. The concept. Are you sitting down? Are you ready? We're not going to quite show you the logo yet. This is the idea. So, my $1 million idea is we would actually like to propose the idea of changing the name Town of Drumheller. There's some reasoning behind this. We want to call it the Drumheller Valley. We want to remove the, and we want it to be Drumheller Valley. Few reasons being, so we've got the story of Drumheller, which of course is the amalgamation and the competitiveness that's existed throughout each of the mini communities through the valley. Whether that was the coal mine days of getting coal out as quick as you could, and Wayne was fighting with Rosedale, and everybody was trying to move things quicker. Whether it was through the years of baseball and hockey, to the years of today, where everybody seems to pay taxes to the town of Drumheller, but they don't necessarily feel like they're part of the town of Drumheller. So the idea here is to create a brand concept that encompasses all of the community. It's kind of built into the word. I highlighted it in green in our concept today, not because it's going to be green in the logo. We're not hung up on colors. But today was really to get behind this idea of we're more than just the town. It's more than just downtown. It's more than North Drumheller. It's more than the Royal Trail Museum. We want people in East Cooley to feel the same as downtown Drumheller, as the same as the people out living in Rosedale, Knackwine, Midland, wherever they are. There's stunning landscapes, historical sites, small businesses, and there's tons of stories in our community that help weave the fabric that makes up the valley. We all have referred to it as the valley at one point or another. We have a lot of other great brands in the community that are taking the similar aspect of how do we create something that's unified. Now, I'm not saying that today we need to go and legally change the name on paper, but I do want to get there eventually. But the idea here is to come up with the branding and the concept to unite the community, get your guys' blessing on this idea so that we can then flush out, work on the creative concepts, and come back to you guys with the official logo and presentation. I really wanted to show you guys a logo today, but the problem being is we really didn't want to create this concept of Drumheller Valley to be then told, no, that's not the right direction. Pay a bunch of money for a design firm to create a logo, and us waste both our time and the taxpayers' dollars on creating something that we have to redo. The nice thing is we can come back in a very short amount of time with some great creative concepts if this is the direction that we can get buy-in in this room today. We would take it back to our committee, and our commitment would be to be back here well before the end of the year with the new visual and promotion of what we're thinking here for the Drumheller Valley. That is my presentation, and I'll leave it with you guys for any questions and comments. Thank you.
Well done, Ryan.
Thank you.
Lots of work there. Impressive. Well, I guess it's question time. Who's going first? Tom?
You just need to be a little bit more enthusiastic. That's your problem. Great stuff. Just a couple of comments. One thing that I've run across, and we've all run across this over the years. How do we get people in our community to believe that we are a great community, maybe not perfect, but we are constantly building in the right direction? And we have heard this over the years. I've had people tell me, more than one person, more than one occasion, Drumheller's dying, right? Like Drumheller's dying. And I try to tell them, well, yeah, you know, we're kind of doing this and we're kind of doing that, and I don't think it's dying. I think we're, you know, going in the right direction and you know, baby steps forward. But I know there are people in this community that really have this conception that, oh, we're kind of second class. Oh, yeah, well, we used to be, you know, lots better, you know, when we had 15,000 people, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just one comment. My second comment, my second question, what do you see as the town's responsibility regarding attractions? So we have many attractions in the valley that get people into the valley and into the town that are not owned by the town, they're not managed by the town, yet they are absolutely essential to town prosperity. How do you see the town fitting into, is there a responsibility of the town to do something with these attractions, to help these attractions, to whatever, or are they just kind of on their own, and we just kind of take them for granted that they're going to do well and prosper, and therefore the town will benefit? So those two things.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tom. A couple great questions, and I'm going to start with your first comment, sort of question on the negativity or the negative perceptions that are in the community. I think maybe three things need to happen. First one is we need to start ignoring them. It sounds easier said than done, but there is a lot of, and I reiterate, kind of said this early in the presentation, there's a lot of cave people in this community. Doesn't matter what we tell them or how we present it to them, they're still going to be negative, and they're still going to not want it in Drumheller. Those people, in my opinion, if they don't like it here, they can move. And we just need to really put our foot down and stop letting the negativity infect the community. It's not going to happen overnight, but the more positivity, the more positive messages and unified message that everybody in this room is saying will help. And I think having a unified brand that the full community is behind will help in that aspect. The other piece of that is the community needs to understand the why of the brand, and they need to buy in. The top-down level approach in this community does not work. We've seen that before. As soon as, and this is just me being frank, as soon as somebody says, the town says we're doing it, there's some good things that happen, but not everybody buys into it. So having this as a community-led, community-driven, they've provided us with their insight, we can now come up with a unified why they need to get behind the Drumheller brand. So that's just my first piece. Now, coming back to your second regarding attractions. Obviously, we don't go into specifics today, but sort of a general comment back to you is, as we develop more community pride, we're probably going to start seeing some other citizens want to help and support some of these other attractions that maybe don't fall under a budget line item in the town of Drumheller's operating capital budget. The more we can get some of this pride, the more we can create a positive customer service mantra across the community, will help shift the culture. There still is a culture of negativity that occasionally will pop up in town administration. It pops up in downtown businesses. It happens. Nobody's perfect, as you know. You said it yourselves. We're not a perfect community. We're not trying to be perfect, but we're trying to be better every day. And that's, I think, the big problem with a lot of these negative perceptions is that they've decided or they've given up in their brain. I personally think that this town has more opportunity than anywhere else. I travel across Western Canada and have the opportunity to see it, and people are envious of what Drumheller has. So I've just shut the negativity out, and we're going to move forward with the positivity.
Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. Many things. I'll try to be as concise as I can. I think, Ryan, starting out with the foundation about why it's certainly matched my perception as well as a transplant to the community, why it's so hard to get everyone to pull in the same direction. I think you've crystallized it better than I ever could have. Growing up in Red Deer, I grew up in the neighborhood of Sunnybrook, but I never once disavowed being from Red Deer. so the idea that these neighborhoods still have a identity that keeps them separate from us, I think it's time to just say, let's move along. Let's be the Drumheller Valley instead. I get it. And as far as the manifesto goes, I think it does two things. It does two things that are crucial to being something that everyone can be proud of, and that is it absolutely can unite us. It needs to be the story that is the front page of everything that we do. And it also is, it's moving enough that it's exciting. So both unites and excites. I think it wins on both of those elements. I'm not sure I'll ever get used to the anticlimactic, you're building and building and building and then no logo. Anyway, but but it doesn't change the fact now, because if I know what you were getting at, it is absolutely past time to try to convince the unconvinceables. It is time to shift focus and just say, we're actually just going to show you that you're wrong by continuing to move along on the path we need to move on, and we're not going to talk about anymore about what's not right. Certainly we need to hear how we can be better, but there's a difference between that and what's the point. Right? Those people, it's time to stop worrying about their thoughts and feelings. It's time to start moving forward on the rest of it. So very encouraging, very optimistic. That's exactly what it needs to be. I have no objections whatsoever. I mean, certainly there needs to be an identifying way to know municipal services, and we'll work that out as we go. But on the surface, at first glance, which is what we're at, I understand more than I ever did before about why it would be important to be known everywhere as Drumheller Valley, and I'm behind you 100%.
Thank you for your comments, Jay.
Tori?
I'll just add to that as well, Ryan. Great presentation. I love the whole framing of the community-led initiative. I was sitting here thinking myself, also as a transplant coming to the community, I think you hit every reason why I came here, why I raised my family here, why I decided to retire here. And it's community to be proud of, and I've been in, believe me, a number of them over the years. Great. I love the Valley branding and the marketing angle of it. You got a little ways to convince me on legally changing our name yet, but yeah, bang on for sure.
Christine?
Well, I love it. But, so actually there was no but. I didn't mean to say but. I think because I do a lot of conceptual stuff too, obviously, with what I do. And my heart's racing. Like you really nailed it, that if you could sum up our unified brand, it's unity. Like right there. And the best part about it too is it's our weakness. And that's like, oh my God, like if we can overcome adversity, which is basically the whole story of Drumheller, overcoming, evolving, and if we can overcome our weakness, which is not coming together, then our brand is really going to be us. Yeah, no, well, it was awesome. I love it. I'm, like I said, heart's pounding. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to cry. It was awesome.
Fred?
I too am ready to cry. Ryan, exceptional background work, and it sure sums up my 41 years of being here. Coming for a short time, staying for a lifetime. I'd like to know kind of where your plans are now. You've engaged the community in coming up with a concept. Now, where are you going with saying, this is the concept, what do you think? I think that's really important, because we can give our rubber stamp to, changing the name, but it'd be interesting on getting your focus and stuff on your end product as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fred. So for us, I don't have the definitive plan today to provide you, but from a high level look at what we're doing is obviously with your guys' blessing on this concept and idea, we would move forward to sort of the phase 2, which we would begin speccing out and designing some of the visual elements that come along with this brand. At that point, our branding committee, which I have to give a huge kudos to our local group, because we couldn't have done it without their help. And also a big thank you to everybody that did the survey and participated in the focus groups, because we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the community's engagement in this program. So our hope is that continuing down this path of why unity and community engagement is to come up with probably 1 or 2 visual concepts that we can then vet through our branding group, get sort of the okay from the group, and then move it forward to look at getting some feedback from the community on direction A or direction B. We do have to be careful because you can always potentially risk trying to please everybody when you're doing community engagement facilitation like this. We know that this is the concept now that we would like to move forward with. So we would create the visual identity, get a bit of a gut check from the community, from you guys, and then we would integrate a full communication, PR, and implementation plan to make sure that this is going to be embedded, and not only be embedded, but bought in through the community. One idea is when we're ready to unveil and sort of get everybody behind it, is doing and spending some money on a professional PR strategy, which would include getting involved with CNN, Global, all the news networks, bloggers, writers, influencers, and start to share the story of the rebrand of Drumheller. And then we can start sharing all these sort of other facts and amazing pieces when we're talking there. Not only are we known as the dinosaur capital of the world, but we've got A, B, C, D, E, F, and we're able to create some amazing content on multiple different networks to multiple different types of audiences to really get the buy-in from the exterior community or the visitors or the people out there. With that is going to create some excitement and some buzz around the community, looking at planning some local events to really launch it within the community. I don't know what those look like today, but the idea would be really to walk with you guys and walk with the community through this process so that our group not only feels engaged and listened to, but the community does as well.
Well, that sent a shiver up my back. I think this is great because I do a lot of traveling down in the States, and one of the places I keep going back to is the Flathead Valley around Kalispell and Whitefish and stuff. And they, although are separate communities, they are the Flathead Valley, and they talk about themselves as, you know, I mean, they're separated, they're separate communities, but the concept of bringing us together is great. I love the idea of engaging along the stage and bringing everybody in. Sounds like a great plan.
Just note, you know, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but we're going to work on it. We're going to stay to task, and we want to make sure that it's done right with the proper resources so that we're not doing this again in 5 years.
All right. I love the word amazing. These guys always tease me because I use it so much, but I love it. Well done, and well done to the committee. I mean, to everybody involved, that was impressive. I do refer to the Valley a lot, and so I'm totally in favor of the whole Drumheller Valley thing. You know, we had those 70 nurses here this weekend, and I heard a lot about how clean we are and how friendly we are. So we are going in the right direction, and I think we just have to, you know, when we look at 497 people participating, that's impressive. Like that's wow. So you guys have done a lot of work. I'm just can't say enough. Congratulations to you all. You have my 100% support on this. And I want you to just know, everybody know that this presentation is on the website so that you can see it. And just, I don't know, thanks a million. It's impressive. Thank you.
And I want to thank you guys for empowering us and our team to move this forward. So thank you guys. Thank you to my committee, and thank you to the audience as well.
All righty. Well, can we just take a 3-minute break? And we'll get right back to it. I think we'll just go right into the fountain support that you guys get on next. So if you want to get set up. Okay, we're gonna get, oh, I guess we gotta wait for one more person. Okay, well, while we're waiting before we go, um, do you want to give a quick update, Greg, on the emergency plan? Oh,
Just it-
there, okay.
Yes. No, it is incomplete, and with the presence and input of Darwin, I expect that certain parts of the plan will take a different face. Starting this week, we have some administrative help that's been reassigned and is going to be able to dedicate more time to us putting it together and changing some of the things with Darwin's extensive experience and knowledge. So it's a work in progress still.
Yeah, so I think, again, that kind of, the whole scope of this changes with flood mitigation. So do you want me to just move this to the end of November? Is that fair? That gives enough time, or?
Sorry. We are having a tabletop exercise October 23rd,
Oh, okay.
but we can certainly update I can give you an update.
Okay, well,
2
that'd be
months or
good to
so.
get an update after that then, if that's October.
Darwin's been of great assistance and considerable input into how we're going to arrange the exercise on the 23rd, and I
Well,
must
maybe
say,
let's
I'm
just,
learning as we go along, which is good.
perfect. Maybe let's just get an update November 4th, just to how that all went and where it's at, and does that work? Okay, wonderful. Well, then let's move on to fountain update.
So, thank you, Your Worship, members of council. My colleague handing these reports out probably needs no introduction to anyone, but there might be those that aren't aware of Mr. Junior Jensen. It was interesting in the previous presentation, we were talking about some of the, I think Councillor Zarisky asked about some of those community things that are out there that need maintenance and need to be kept up, and are they orphans or are they part of the community? Well, whether it was a ski hill, a chuck wagon track, golf course, and many other ones that just don't come to mind right now. I worked with Junior as a volunteer on the construction or operation or fundraising for many of those over the past few decades. So it was very convenient that he offered to help out to give a review of the fountain. And we did it in the context of the flood mitigation system, in that the style and format of the flood mitigation system going forward will include a assessment of many facilities that we're going to impact. And it could be various parks, it's going to be certainly private properties. And as they're impacted, we have to decide just what degree the flood mitigation measures might impact them, and whether or not it requires adapting to that existing facility or perhaps an opportunity to replace it. So we want to talk about that context, the recommendations, how it fits with the ongoing asset management policy of the community, the options that could be looked at in the future, and then a vehicle to try and get us there. So here's a picture of 3 dinosaurs up on the screen, and one of them we moved to the other side of the road quite a number of years ago as part of the development of the what was then called the APL Park, standing for Alberta Power Limited, and the fountain that was a big part supported by the local Rotary, but many other organizations and groups, and a big part of it being the Chamber of Commerce. So the popularity of the fountain and the surrounding park, again, is impacted by the flood mitigation system that we'll be developing. And we wanted to look at the surrounds and the fountain in particular in the context of, is the fountain salvageable, given the shutdown and some of the problems that were being experienced last year? Or if it's to be removed, what impacts will the revised contouring of the park have on any type of a replacement feature that might go in? So I'm going to kind of jump to the end of our findings, and what we found is that the fountain is very salvageable at very reasonable cost, and needs to be incorporated into the design of the flood mitigation system. The fountain should and could be operated through into freeze up, perhaps 1 or 2 more weeks, I don't know. Preparations should be made to create a skating surface on the fountain basin. A lot of people had forgotten that was how we ran it for the first few years, and we forgot to paint the ice nice and white to reflect, and it would melt out on us in a couple Chinooks. So that's an interesting part of it. Prepare for erecting a Christmas tree at the center, and whether that alleviates any pressure off of the downtown or alternate facilities, it may help. Detailed design and estimates be completed to identify the cost to return the fountain to its original state, and detailed operating estimates of possible operational methods be created. We'll talk about that in a little bit more. Operational manuals and as-built records be produced for the facility. We really need that to help the staff get their job done. And then task force of some sort be established with reps from the Rotary to review the long-term plans for the fountain itself and the other aquatic experiences in the area to just figure out how they're all going to program in and move forward. And that'll be very useful for me in moving forward with the flood mitigation program, because we've got to look at it as a design and some of the elements down in that area rather than the amalgamation of a whole bunch of one-offs that are trying to fit together and be impactful for the area. And then that the 2020 operational capital budgets include funding to bring the fountain to its desired levels. So council policy passed a few years ago talked about asset management and specific facility plans, be it roads, individual buildings, whatever, have specific plans attached to them, and the journey has gone through to be able to determine the level of service for the condition and the inventory that we have. That's all put in place as a policy to support establishing reserves so that we've got money on hand to deal with that. It requires, however, a level of service be picked and established. And the fountain started out as a showstopper and might have ended up as let it fall apart. And I don't know that that was the intent of where you were wanting to go on it. So using some of those principles of getting the best out of the investment you have and leveraging that investment to the future might be a way to approach this. So there's about 5 options to look at. Returning it to its original condition and function, limp mode, how it's currently operating, modifying it to just a dry basin only, conversion of it to a reflecting pond, 3-tiered approach, kind of like a layer cake, the conventional wedding cake look of fountains that you've seen. Changing it over to a spray park, or out-and-out demolition and start again. So anyways, those are good guesses of cost, but by no means detailed estimates. So the task force could look back and look over things in the context of what I've talked about earlier, report back by the end of February 2020, so that it can maybe catch the budget cycle and move forward from there. I think I'm going to let Junior speak to this. He was able to spend a lot of time with the staff, and the staff were able to find the way through and identify a lot of the things that had to be repaired. Junior, can I throw it to you, please?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to address you folks and bring you up a little bit to speed as to what we found there and to see what I think without too much headache and hassle and dollars, taxpayer dollars, that we can bring it back to life. First of all, I'd like to thank Darwin for giving me the opportunity to, as a new resident of Drumheller, to get involved with some of the things that are happening in town. And my first experience after we had a look at things down there and saw that the chain of command or whatever, the chain had somewhere, I'm not sure where, between the bottom of the link and the top of the link, there was a great separation as to allowed things to appear in the shape that it's in, and the decision that was made to shut it down. We took a good look at things and brought in the town employees and the people that are responsible for the everyday maintenance of the facility, and was very, very impressed with their interpretations and the guidance that we got, and it helped Darwin and I greatly as to what procedures we needed to take place to find out where the troubles were and to see if we could estimate some of the costs to hopefully put it back in as to original operation. There is, I guess to that, just the visitors that come and enjoy that park. I've heard it from many people. Yes, I've seen some negative comments on Facebook and whatever, and I would just love to have added one comment of mine after I read one of the comments that was posted there on Facebook, and my comment would have been, are you bragging or complaining? Now, I'm sure some of you people have seen the comment that I'm referring to, but I won't specifically point it out. I think that with everybody's involvement in whatever, I think it can be brought back into a very respectable and an honorable showpiece that Drumheller can be, and the Valley can be very proud of.
Well, thank you both, and thank you, Junior. It's how many years since that picture was taken? You're just a young soul then. You got a little more hair even.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Your Worship, I think the fountain itself, a lot of celebration, a lot of interest into it when it was first opened up and for its first long while of running. I think slowly and continually it had some of its features disappear. And whether it was the full height that it used to be turned up to, or the music, or the skating rink, or the Christmas tree, the lighting, on and on and on, it got to the point where it was, why have the damn thing? And operationally, with some of the things that were involved as well, there's maybe some other ways to operate it that might be able to make it a little less of a burden and a little bit more of a asset. So Junior certainly got some ideas there. So busy agenda tonight, not lots else there, but the recommendations you now have, you've got the overall report. Happy to entertain any questions.
Christine?
Thank you, guys. My question would be, when you refer to going back to its original state, is that before it was a wading pool or back when it was first built, bringing it back to that point?
Well, I believe the way it is run now is there was a main line coming to the fountain that had deteriorated, and we had significant water loss to it. So what we did to do an initial inspection and to see that our theories were going to work was as we pulled a liner pipe through and tied the center nozzle on to the existing, and also included onto the existing 8 nozzles on the outside. We did shrink the nozzle size on the count of to see if we could run it on town pressure water, which we found out we could. There's some different procedures we'd have to do to put it back with the main. We took the 3/4 inch nozzles that were on the fountain and put 3/8 nozzles in. That's why it looks fairly miniature the way it is now. We have lost the wind turbine or the wind sock that used to be there, and what the operation of that was to, when the wind blew, that blew the water out of the center of the fountain, so we lost the water, which now, and then it was supposed to adjust the water pressure on the pumps to cut it back to eliminate that water loss. The way it is right now is it's shooting in, and we're just running on the 55-pound town pressure water, and realizing that we are losing some water there, but we found out, and Darwin did a study there and looked at it, and it's taken the original concept of that was it held 111 cubic meters of water in the park, and to keep that amount of water to swimming pool standards, and the way it was being operated, it was kind of an employee nightmare as to how it was, and we found out if maybe we just we're compelled to keep it at swimming pool standards, and to acknowledge that maybe rather than trying to treat that water and tie up the personnel to keep testing it 3 and 4 times a day, maybe it's cheaper just to dump the water a couple times a week and refill it. And we found out that the cost of the water was if you run on your retail price of your water, it's just, I believe, $1.16 a meter, or your wholesale water, which that's a town project. So you really have to have your retail price for your water to service that system. And the cost of that water would be at 68 cents a cube. So it's $68 or $75, I guess it would be.
So basically, you're saying
day
that
to
we
run.
would be able to have the wading pool like we have?
Yes.
Okay, that's what you were asking?
But
Yeah.
but with some different operations, we'd have to do different, because if it's gonna be a wading pool, then you have to treat that
Yeah.
water. The way it is now, it's just ankle deep, and with the Department of Health from.
Yeah, and that's a decision we'd have to come up with
Yeah.
for that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Demott, not back to bare land, back to the original.
And so like that, and that was that number one that you estimated around the 20, is that,
I
that
think
was?
it's about 55.
Yep, oh, 20 to, 35 to
35 to
55.
55.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I was just wondering about the task force. When would we be advertising that? Would that be open to like anybody in the community? How would that work?
I think that's entirely at your purview and election as to how you would establish a committee of that nature. Certainly Daryl's been in contact with the Rotary, and I think they were the first ones to request that we have a good second look at it. So that's why they're a natural to be there at the front and their investments in it. But
Okay, anybody else? Fred?
I'm confused with a couple things. So your number one option, 35 to 55. I'm trying to think back when the fountain originally got dedicated. Was it not just a fountain? It wasn't a wading pool, was it? No, because people just started congregating around it, and then pretty soon kids were in the pool, and then pretty soon we filled it a little bit more, and then it became, no, is that not correct? Go ahead and give me the facts, because I want to understand this.
so August 22nd, when it opened,
Yeah.
it was one of the coldest summer days in Drummiller's history. And it was Canada's 125th birthday in 1992, and we commemorated the opening by throwing hoodoo quarters into the fountain so that the kids would all go in and learn that it's a wading pool and pick them up. And they all turned blue. Looked like little Smurfs.
Little Smurfs. Okay, my second question is, when we were discussing this, and my colleagues can correct me, we had a base price of $85,000 to fix the fountain. Why is there such a huge discrepancy from the numbers that we looked at and made our decision on earlier this summer about trying to refurbish this fountain? Why was it so much higher than what we're looking at now? Is it the fact that we actually looked and went really dug deep and found out that there were things that we didn't have to fix? Is that correct?
In part, I think two points, and one is in the more detailed report. Junior and I had a cursory review of earlier reports that other consultants had done,
Yeah.
and we did that purposely so that we didn't end up with a bias.
Right.
And that we could go back to, okay, what did we build the first time? And through that, we came up with some unique methods of doing some repairs on the lines, and mainly slip lining with a HDPE pipe that had been tried or examined and was abandoned in previous pursuits of repair on the fountain. And the other thing that I should point out is these estimates at the top, they're level D, so in engineering parlance, that's plus or minus 50%. So it could come out a whole bunch less, or it could be more. But there was also other works that had been done of liners put into the suction lines on the fountain, and they seem pretty good. So yeah, we're pretty bullish on those numbers.
I'm impressed. It makes me rethink our decision to tear it out in the fall, obviously. It does, however, make me wonder what else makes me second guess everything now. That's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, no, I'd like to go back to the other thing that you mused might have caused it, and that was us doing a lot deeper dive into it. We spent a lot of hours going through it and finding out the real answers that are there. But I also must say that your staff had the corporate memory of we tried this then and stopped or started, or for reasons unbeknownst to them didn't proceed with it, and we were able to explore those. So I wouldn't start questioning everything else. Yeah, so it's a tough attraction to operate.
Christine?
Just another quick question there. As it's coming in, it's going to come out. So if it was a wading pool then, was it in fact chlorine-driven deterioration of the lines, or was what happened to the fountain our typical wear and tear, perhaps coupled with neglect? Is that why the fountain got into that case it's in? Because now I've always heard it's because, oh, you guys turned it into a wading pool and the chlorine ate away the pipes.
So in the original design, it was designed as a wading pool. It had a filtration facility designed and chlorination designed into it. Drumheller didn't have much money then. We chose to just circulate it and flush it several times a week if necessary to use the town water approach that Junior explained and avoid having to do full-time chlorination. Wasn't long after it was opened, we did have to add sodium hypochlorite to keep a chlorine residual there. And then I think it was probably, Daryl helped me out, about 2015 that the hammer came down and it was time to do full filtration and full chemical balancing. So when that went in place, a little mini treatment plant was built down in the vault, and yeah, you could try and run that precisely to the parameters, or you could use the great big one at 2490 South Railway Avenue and use it in bulk to overwhelm what's going on there. So that was some of the parameters that they were trying to precisely shoot at, 7.2 pH instead of 7.8, and lots of good and valid reasons for it, but it kind of lost sight of why and what you're trying to do with the facility. So we've made commentary on that. As far as the chlorine affecting the pipes and rotting the concrete and all the rest of it, it's 27 years old, and it had a lot of energy put through the pipes that probably caused them to fail, and it's in remarkably good shape. It had its cathodic protection upgrade done probably about 10 years ago, but hasn't had a lot of testing since. So yeah, there's been some things overlooked. Yep, but yeah.
Anybody else? Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. So if I'm understanding correctly, simply cycling the water through a couple of times a week would solve the same problem as full-on chlorination. Is that what you're saying?
No, we'll still, to meet the intent and the requirements of the health department, there'll still have to be filtration and chlorination. It's just that will not be the singular method of trying to keep it going. That is, you won't keep circulating and treating that water for weeks on end before you replace it. So the new operational approach could be on Thursdays, flush and wash and disinfect the fountain, fill it back up, run it till perhaps, and then test, and then maybe on Monday or Tuesday after the impacts of the weekends, do the same thing again and flush that water so it kind of, the treatment facility augments the clean water.
And having no frame of reference whatsoever for the operational end of things, that is significantly less of an operational nightmare than the previous system?
That's one of our recommendations is to do a deeper dive on that, Councillor Garbett.
Okay.
But it appears that would make a huge difference right now on the amount of effort having to go into monitoring and confirming that we're meeting some of these parameters precisely rather than more generally meeting the intent of keeping contaminants and E. coli out of the pool.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification. The only other thing, Your Worship, was, and a night that has dragged on like this one, I hate to bring up a small potato, but recommendation number 4, you've been a big part of the Christmas festival that is a larger and larger festival each year. What is your thoughts about, I mean, the lighting of the Christmas tree, having that featured downtown, warts and all, with all the alleged apocalyptic things that were going to happen with people not being able to turn left for 3 weeks. It's become a big deal to light that thing as the penultimate moment of the festival. We won't be able to move people down 3 blocks and bring them all back. The point was to have it downtown. What's your thoughts on the Christmas tree?
Well, Daryl can attest that I said the Christmas tree is going back downtown. I think it's the pinnacle part of the Festival of Lights. Everybody just the whole interaction, it felt like we were in a Christmas movie. So I think if you're going to put the ice back in the rink there, I would still recommend maybe a tree,
Right.
just
We can put
decorate
a
it there.
tree, but not the tree?
But not
Okay.
that tree.
Okay.
Because, and it is, it's so spectacular, Festival
So-
of Lights that I don't want it anywhere else.
So 2 trees, and I'm the guy that put them both in, including the one on Third and Center the first time. Absolutely. But this one is more an attraction and anchoring and fun spot than the whole downtown one.
And I think having the tree lit by the skating rink, again, creates that whole family
Yep.
festivity. So yeah, thanks because that was on my list. So
Gotcha.
thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the water seepage, leakage. I mean, the main reason that we decided to shut the fountain down was that there were a gazillion number of liters leaking out of there every day. Where does that stand?
So we can't be absolutely certain where the numbers of liters were going. The first thing we did was brought it back to cubic meters so we could get a context of what was being leaked, not hyperinflated numbers. With that and examining the site, the way that we developed it in the first instance was to avoid putting it on top of any old structures whatsoever. And we made a very robust weeping tile system underneath it. When we shut the water off, the weeping tile shut off very quickly as well. So it leads us to believe that we're catching a lot of it, but we do not know whether or not there was leakage going down into the ground, out the riverbank, where it was. We certainly didn't do exhaustive checking on that. I do know that the site is a very sandy site that probably wouldn't be prone to huge voids. They would collapse and show up quick. But having said that, right as rain, I'm going to walk out of the room and somebody will tell me that there's something appeared. It's earth, and there's probably nothing catastrophic if we can find something there, or if there is, it won't be tough to repair. So the water loss was quickly remedied when we put the new lining inside the steel pipe. We put plastic pipe, and that was the end of that.
Okay, anybody else? And since we brought up the tree, because it's going to come, I just let the viewing public know that I've also asked Daryl to figure out how to create a left turn. And and you don't have to answer that. I know you're working on it.
We're constructing an overpass. It's a cloverleaf system. Actually, on that,
Oh, yeah, so since we're on the tree, anybody out there who has a tree that they want to donate, please let the town know. Get hold of Dave, I guess, Public Works, Kevin at Public Works, and let him know that you're interested in donating your tree, and because we definitely want a big tree, don't we, April? Okay, well, that's great. Junior, thanks a million. I appreciate you. Glad you're part of the residents and paying taxes here now. It's good to see. And welcome and thanks for your expertise, and I love your passion for the community. Okay, so we shall thank you, and we shall move on. And I think that, Dave, we're going to just move your trail gaps to the next meeting, because I think that's a pretty in-depth conversation that we need to have. However, Darwin, could you give just a quick update on the dike thing? Just you got like
Sure.
1 minute.
First, I think we should move from calling it dike design, because that's one very small element of the overall flood mitigation system program. So maybe we could change it to that. I've been doing a lot of work with Alberta Environment, right from the minister through to folks that we will work with to transfer the ownership. Lots to report at the next meeting. The biggest thing stems from last council meeting, and you've been circulated a memo, I think, I emailed it to everybody last week, and then it's at your desks right now. it's my opinion that it's really important to thread all these bits and parts together and look at our municipal development plan. Municipal development plan in its entirety was created when Drumiller and Badlands kind of mashed together, and we haven't stepped back and looked at the entire valley in the context of what it should have been in the interceding 20 years. So with that, big opportunity for that, because we do have to look at a lot of things that will impact and affect the intercollaboration frameworks, the intermunicipal development plans, and the land use bylaw. So the suggestion would be that the CAO and myself, we come up with a bit of a work plan. There's different challenges of not only working with the neighbors, but also the capacity that Palliser may have to be able to pursue some of these things. When the MDP is redone, there's also a lot of ancillary studies and supporting documentation, engineering standards, trail standards, park standards that become part of it. We've all been talking about that for a few months now. So I think legislatively and vision-wise, embarking on the MDP update is probably well worth the effort. And then with the land use bylaw, with some of the things that we're getting lots of queries at, whether it's MPC or phone calls I might get from residents from time to time, and many of you, I think we can look at some of those minor updates and or amendments before year end and bring them back for your consideration. And then over the longer haul, see the land use bylaws. Daryl, I don't know if anything that's it for.
Okay, well, I think I'll just forward this all to the new action plan, because this is an ongoing, so we'll just move that forward. Any questions on that? Okay, so we just need a motion on this Town of Drumheller Development Plan. Yeah, so on the second page of this, you all have it. So I just need a motion where it starts, it is therefore recommended. So Tom?
Yeah, I move that council recommend that to direct the CAO and Chief Resiliency and Flood Mitigation Officer to prepare a work plan, schedule, and budget by October 31st, 2019 to implement creation of a new municipal development plan for the town of Drumheller, or is that the Drumheller Valley? B, prior to December 20, 2019, amendments to the land use bylaw they deem necessary to improve the efficacy of the existing land use bylaw, and that the Drumheller Development Authority be consulted.
Seconder. Fred, comments? All in favor? Carried. All right, thank you, boys. Appreciate your time. Thanks for your patience. These guys are going to fire me when Jay's here. My meetings are better. All right. Okay, so Dave, since April and Lucas have been here this long, I'm going to let the three of you do the downtown plaza update.
The bulk of the plaza presentation is going to be by April and Lucas regarding the actual survey and the event planning for the plaza, since that is more the purpose of the plaza and will dictate a perception of how well it is performed. It just is a front end to that. From the capital side, the actual construction of the plaza side, we've spent or used approximately $30,000 of the $50,000 assigned to the plaza. Zero of the downtown sound system plaza at this point. We are in the process of purchasing a sound system though, so we will be using that funds. The balance of money that's for the plaza that's left over, there is several lessons learned and winter features that'll be needed. So things like some additional fire pits, some lessons that we've learned, especially around the bathroom and some of the other items that we need to implement that we'll be working on over the upcoming months and the weeks and months to make sure that those things are proper and all set up. From the design wise, I made up the design quite quickly. We know that there's some deficiencies in it. The surface for one, A couple of other items, we've identified lessons learned that Lucas and the operating staff have identified throughout the summer, including some stuff with the stage that the performers have said to me multiple times about the roof line and stuff. So there's some items that we're going to have to fix based on lessons learned. Pretty much everything else for the plaza, though, should be coming from Lucas in April, so I'll let them take it from there.
Okay, well then I will let you guys get started, and thank you, April and Lucas, for all you guys do out there, and looking forward to this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having us. I guess buckle up. We'll try not to take too long, but we do want to give you a good overview of what's been done and next steps. So I'm going to let Lucas take the initial few slides, and then I'll jump in afterwards. And for those of you that haven't met him yet, this is Lucas. This is our events coordinator.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Lucas. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm from Nova Scotia. I just started mid-July, fresh out of university. I'm 23. I drove here all the way from Nova Scotia, so...
It's like a dating profile.
So just a little intro, sorry. Anyways, to the important stuff. Right, so I got pressed every time, don't we? So just starting off, throughout the summer, we had 22 different performers. Four performed 2 or more times, and each week brought a different kind of positive environment to the plaza. So for average attendances, for Thursday nights, the average attendance was around 87 people. For Fridays, there was 91 average, and on Saturdays, there was an average of 210. So for Thursday nights, the top performers, or the highest number of people, was 100 people on August 1st, 15th, and 22nd. And if you're wondering who those performers were, they are local. August 1st was the Wayfaring Fiddlers. The 15th was Peter McDermott. And the 22nd was Kathy Brown. For Friday, the highest number of people who attended the plaza was 150.
Sit back a little bit from the mic.
Oh, am I too loud? Oh, sorry. Rookie. Yeah, for Fridays, it was 150 people, and they were also a local band. They called themselves the Garage Band. And for Saturday, the average on a regular night was 250 to 300 people. And they were a country duo group called As High As We Go from Airdrie. And on the last day of the plaza, specifically August 31st, we had around 500 to 600 people from 2 o'clock to 11:30 at night, which was amazing. A lot of stuff was going on that we'll get to shortly, so continue. So the next few slides will just be about the public survey that we put out online for the public. So for locals versus visitors, first off, we had 196 people fill out the survey. We had 181 people fill out this section. So local, big percentage, 93%. 7% who filled it out were visitors. And this slide's obviously a bit misleading because it's not fully representative of the tourist attendance. The survey was physically handed out on the last 3 nights of the plaza, and then we posted on our Facebook page. So it all depends how many tourists follow our Facebook page who could have seen the online version of the plaza. And, you know, on the last 3 nights, you're not going to get all the tourists out. So, but on each night when I was at the plaza, I talked to tourists regularly. So yeah, it's a bit misleading, that one. Next slide. For this, it's a bit self-explanatory. So how many times did you visit? Large portion of people just put 1 to 3 times, which is, I would say, yeah, normal. Only a handful said more than 15. I can literally picture who those people are. So next slide, please. What entertainment did you enjoy the most? It's also pretty self-explanatory. I won't go through each. So when people say all, we had some acts that were non-music, so people who literally just put, we only like the music, that was the percentage there. And then certain bands who were pretty popular with the crowd, specifically. Did you like the location of the plaza? So a large portion of the public said they do like it. Small portion said they don't, 8%. People who did say no, the alternative locations were on the street, so on Center Street, because... Deal. Did you make any purchases from downtown businesses? So this was a pretty good stat. 66% around said they did purchase items, so that included the Shave Ice vendor located on the plaza, Pizza 249 down the street, Black Mountain Roasters, the Legion, and we had a beer garden / barbecue on the last night with the Legion Sublime running it. So these are just a few quotes that members of the public put on the survey. So what did you like about it? Those are just for you to read. And how can we improve the plaza? So there's a few key ones that we brought out. And it kind of goes into the next slide more in detail about how we can improve the plaza. So the big ones were 22% of the people wanted food trucks and more shade and the better pavement. So we tried our best to accommodate shade this summer. We ordered umbrellas for the crowd, and we tried to accommodate the performers as best as possible when it came to shade, because as we know, the sun reflects onto them in the evening. Pavement, yeah, that definitely needs improving. A lot of people always told me that it needs improvement, so that was a big one. So I'll let April take over for the business input.
All right, so of the 196 people that completed the survey, 16 answered yes, they own or operate a business in the downtown area. And of them, it was an even 50-50 split on whether they expressed that they noticed a positive impact as a result of the plaza. I think this is a tricky question, and there was lots of comments from the 16 folks that filled it in. We also asked them what hours they're open. And not all, but many of those that expressed that they did not notice a positive impact on their business weren't open during plaza operating hours. And so you would expect that response. That's not all, and there were a few comments of folks that said they tried to open, but they didn't see a noticeable change, so then they ceased being open. And I think really it speaks to the need for getting a critical mass of stores being open, and there being stores that people want to go check out at that time in the evening, and also the number of times that they're downtown. So of the folks that said yes, they noticed a positive impact, it wasn't always right there and then. It wasn't a case of going and buying a water from NN News necessarily. There was the chiropractic place across the street from the plaza specifically stated that they noticed a significant increase in business, and they knew it was a direct result of the plaza because on their intake form they asked how they heard about them, and people put the plaza. So, not just retail that's benefiting. Okay, so we asked for suggestions from businesses on ways that we could improve or things that we could do, and I'm not going to read these all out to you, but I think just the overall idea was that there needed to be more participation by retailers and determining the location of the space. Interestingly, of the people that said no to liking the location of the plaza, actually quite a large number of them, the reason they didn't like it is because they liked it on the street before, where it was last year, and that came up a few times. What's also interesting in here is, bear in mind that these are all business owners. There were 4 that mentioned the street, 2 said move it onto the street, and 2 said don't have it on the street. So we take from that what we can, I suppose. So now for the performer input. Oh,
it doing that? So I'll just reel them all out. Is there one more? Okay. Yeah, so these are just all the stats from the performers side of things. They're kind of backwards. No, they're fine. Yeah, so they're all very generally positive, very positive reactions from our performers. So there's, I won't read them all out. They're just there for you to read yourself. But yeah, they're all generally very positive. Performer improvement thoughts. So here's another set of quotes from our performers of what they think could be improved. So the sun really hits hard in the performer's eyes, so that's something that we really we heard a lot, and we'll hopefully do something about for next year. So what we think personally, so what went well, another large list of things that we think that was very successful this summer. We applied a lot of color to the plaza with our new chairs and tables because we thought it was important to kind of give colorful environment for families and friends. For me personally, it was a big plus for the stage to be fully powered with electricity, because when I first came in, it was all kind of all over the place. Wires were just everywhere, all over the floor. It wasn't very safe, tripping hazard. And then we got plugs across the whole stage, which made life a lot easier for me and the performers. So that was a highlight for things that went well. Needs to improve and what we need. So here's things that we think definitely need improving. So the stage, roof, lighting, accessibility to the stage, because we could have performers who are wheelchair accessible. So I think it's important that we can give everyone an opportunity to perform. Better overall promotion. So what I'd like to say about this is, when I came in, what we did for promotion this summer was adequate. It was good. The numbers for crowds slowly grew, but I was kind of playing catch up when it came to hiring the performers for the weekends coming up. So for next year, I would like to have all of the performers booked each night before the first night even begins, and start booking those early next year, 2020. Apply more shade. Plaza floor we discussed. Washrooms, so the washroom location could be in discussion because sometimes an odor can lead onto the stage. So that's kind of a negative factor. And make them also accessible for everyone as well, because they're not accessible for everyone. Parking signage, monetizing the plaza, and winterization. If we want to make the plaza useful year-round, we have to make it work for winter months. So heat, light, and there was one more, wasn't there? Oh. Okay, so what we need, a final destination of the plaza. This isn't 100% guaranteed if that square is the final spot, so that needs to be sorted. Thought through the design of the space, more furniture, liquor licensing, because a lot of our future events will most likely want alcohol at the event, and to make that possible, the plaza needs to be licensed. And we've already come through situations that it is a struggle to get it licensed properly. So possibly a barrier to make that possible. Stage lighting, because the stage currently has no actual lights on it. Bike racks, I think that'd be kind of fun, because biking's a big thing in this town. Having bike racks there will allow people to stop, give them a good excuse to stop, watch some entertainment, have a little break, stuff like that. Selfie spot, and there's just it's a big list of things that we need. And yeah, there's a little for your eyes and stuff. Yeah, a lot of improvement, but a good start this summer.
Yeah.
Is this you?
Sure.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, so this is the stage at Rosebud. It's their 15 minutes stage. And I'm just using it as an illustration for kind of what the roof probably needs to look like moving forward so that it reaches beyond the front of the stage. I kind of like about this one is it also has the side entrance built in there so that performers can just go straight in and out from the sides rather than having to enter through the front. And they've got lots of power. And all of it's labeled as with the lights and everything else. So I think this is kind of a good template for us to use.
So right now, just to take a little break from the speaking, we have a quick video that we'd like to show you guys. It's just a duration of the plaza, its progression from literally when did the plaza start getting built? I wasn't here for that, from the last night of the plaza. So it just kind of gives you guys a visual. The background music's a bit cheesy, but ignore that. This is like a shorter version of what we're gonna put out to the public. So there's 3 videos inside this video as well of different performers, so gives you a little taste.
Sitting in a shotgun seat on the car at a drive-in movie. And your hands through your hair like you just don't care. 'Cause you thought you knew me. Well, I guess it's a safe bet. You ain't never met someone like me yet. Make it kind of loud. Yeah. A bit loud. That's the end of the video. But yeah, it kind of just gives you a visual of everything that kind of went on this summer.
the stage clearly improved week on week. So yeah, that's just a fun little video for you guys. Okay, so this is you, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we thought we'd talk a little bit about next steps. Following the summer, I think the summer was a great success. We're building year on year, and I think we made over $700 in the dunk tank thanks to some people that are present here in this room, and many others. So we're really thankful to them for doing that and supporting the plaza throughout the summer. So next steps. Roger Brooks says that for retail to be sustainable, there need to be customers 250 days a year minimum. And he also says that bringing people downtown will put customers in front of their stores, and then it's up to the retailer to pull them in the door. So the mayor and I actually recently watched one of his webinars on great ideas that will make you a fantastic holiday destination. And the number one suggestion was to program the holidays to last 30 to 40 days, 7 days a week. So November 16th to December 24th is 39 days. And rule 2 is to make you a fantastic holiday destination is to place your activities in the heart of your spending district. So just wanted to clarify a little bit between a special event and activities. Special events are planned. They take place during a set period of time. There's an agenda. It's often a big social event. Activities engage people outside of a set time limit. So there's no planned agenda or timetable. People can just come along at a time that's convenient to them and partake. And so he expressed that we should be concentrating on activities and less so on special events, and having a 75-25 split between them. Yeah. So what we're kind of working on at the moment, or that mostly Lucas is working on at the moment, is developing an itinerary of existing activities and events that happen in the valley. And we have a few, if you want to just take these around. So we have compiled a list so far, and so we're passing them around for you to kind of just cast your eye over. And if there are any missing, please do let Lucas know, and he'll for sure add them. And this just gives us kind of a really good overview of what our current level of service is in the valley, and not necessarily organized by the town, but organized in general. You'll note that in location, the ones that take place downtown are highlighted green, and the ones that the town is involved with to one extent or another are highlighted orange. So based on what's before you right now, there are a total of 44 days of activities or events downtown, 54 activities. Some of them happen on the same day, which leaves us with 206 if we're going to do 250. So we're also wanting to develop 4 kind of bigger annual events, something in spring, maybe a taste of food festival type thing. Summer at the Plaza is obviously our summer gig. Fall, maybe a beer or cider festival. I think that would be fantastic. Who doesn't like beer and cider? And we could obviously celebrate and highlight our local businesses in that way too. And then winter festival. So that's Festival of Lights on steroids for like 30 to 40 days. In addition, we're looking for year-round activities, and in order to do that and to achieve all of that, we're absolutely going to have to collaborate with community groups, businesses, and other departments of the town. So we have a lot of activity and event ideas, and I'm not going to name them all, but we'll just run down the list here. Because there's so many, they get really small. But year-round, obviously, we have the outdoor ping pong table, and as soon as it arrived, people started using it. And so we want to make it really clear to people that they can, and they're free to, and so really that's just a case of putting a sign on the top that says, just put me back on when you're done, kind of thing. Same with the piano. Little free library at the plaza. It's already built. We just need to put it in, and that will be there year-round. Food trucks are really important. Maybe youth small business opportunities. I think we need to kind of tie in with the Dino Tour, or the revised Dino Tour as that comes on board. I think we should have a Busker's Corner. this is the spot for buskers. Not the only spot, but this is the primary spot. Right now, I think last time I looked, we had 3 people with a busking license for the community, and that needs to change. We need to improve those numbers. And if people are not wanting to kind of figure out what that is, what the barriers might be, and how we can help remove them. We need to team up with clubs and groups to host activities. I like the idea of a drumheller by the sea, but I'll come to that later. During the Christmas season, I think a winter market or a Christmas village is something that would add activity downtown and bring a lot of people downtown as well. We're talking about having the ice rink downtown this year. A Christmas lights tour, I think, would be fantastic too. So this year, for Light Up the Night, we're going to be doing things just a little bit differently, and so folks can let us know if they're going to be, really going all out on their decorations, and we'll put them on a map. We'll make the map up really nicely, and there'll be a walking tour and a driving tour that people can pick up from tourist information or download from our website, and off they go on the tour. Just on Christmas lights, you need 500,000 lights to be worth a visit. And the top destinations have between 500,000 and 1.5 million. So Christmas lights and having more of them should definitely be on the agenda. Santa mailbox downtown, I think, will be lovely. And I've been looking. For one, classes working with the various flower shops would be great to have wreath making classes or similar downtown, sleigh rides, selfies with Santa, strolling carolers, all that kind of thing. And then on the event side, we're in the middle of planning a Scotch tasting event. If that's your tipple, it will be at the Plaza. As I've mentioned, food festivals, summer at the Plaza, farmers markets, outdoor story time. You do an indoor story time. Maybe you would like to do an outdoor story time. Yoga in the Plaza in a morning. We can collaborate with the BCF and see about putting some programming on the Plaza. Having a beach volleyball tournament is, definitely something that can be done and has been done before downtown. Same as a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Pride. What are we doing to celebrate it? Could we be doing more? Table tennis tournaments, pumpkin carving, having an Oktoberfest, having a chili cook-off, celebrating Diwali. We have, a population of people for whom that is their Christmas. Let's help them celebrate it. And more. Sure. So I have a few images just to run through of examples of ideas of things that happen at plazas in other locations. So I mentioned Drumheller by the Sea because a lot of plazas are kind of importing sand, and so then it's there all the time. You don't have to necessarily program it all the time, but people will just show up with a bucket and spade and their chair and their kids, and they'll just spend the day there. And I know that because it's done elsewhere. And the one that you see top right started really basic. It started with sand and some signage, and over 10 years has grown to what is the top right now, where there's fairground rides and vendors and a paddling pool and the beach bit. And this is in the middle of a city, a long way from the beach. And then other examples that are grassed and have the vendor stations around and a bar. And I think that's key too, is the vendor stations are absolutely essential if you want people to come and to stay. And then you're also monetizing this space. And these are just suggestions, obviously. And then yoga, I think, is a great idea. And then here's just another plaza. And instead of having the stand, they have a deck and obviously a bar. So that's summer. So just some ideas for winter. We talked about having an ice skating rink, and lots of places do it. Most of them have, again, vendors around. Why would you not want a hot chocolate after you've just been ice skating? I think the market idea, the idea of a Christmas market, has to be something that we really seriously think about. I like the atmosphere that these bring to a downtown is is fantastic. Obviously, they would need to be heated and lit. But if you want to bring people downtown many days in the winter season, this is one way of definitely achieving that. And here's another example. And then there is a community called Leavenworth, Washington. It has a population of less than 3,000 people. This is it. And they have more tourists in the winter season than they do in the summer season because they make a big deal about it. Their stores are all well lit. And they have activities going on every single day. Even just a really small toboggan hill there. I mean, it's little and it's only going to be really fun for small children, but it's used all the time and it's right downtown. And of course, a big Christmas tree with fireworks. You can't go wrong, really. Other ideas are ice sculptures and ice slides. Again, once they're installed, these are a feature that you don't have to program. They're just there and people will come and use them and be wherever they are. So if we put them downtown, it's a way of bringing people downtown. And another example that was given in Roger Brooks's talk, but I think it's a great idea too, is these inflatables that you can go inside and they blow snow and you can change the imagery, you can put any logos on that you want and all those things. So I just wanted to leave you with some examples like that. And then if you have any questions, we'd love to hear them.
Oh, wonderful presentation. We're seeing some great stuff today. All right. Thank you, Lucas and April. Fred, go ahead.
Fantastic. It's been a night of exciting things. I love the plaza I have from the first time it was mentioned. And Daryl and I went at AUMA to a session about how to what was it called?
Downtown revitalization.
Yeah. And the first thing they talked about was you don't create stores and then create events and things like that. You create a plaza, you create a gathering place, and that everything else will follow. And they said that with marketing, the marketing future, Amazon online, that even the box stores that we see on the outlying areas of communities will soon be a thing of the past, and people will transport themselves back to the downtown core, and that the downtown area, the plazas will be the centerpiece. And so roundabout, we've done the right thing for 2 years, and we're headed in an incredible direction. I'm excited about that. Was there any noise complaints this summer? Yeah, because I was at the hospital, unfortunately, to visit somebody that was dying. But every time I came out of the hospital around 7, 8 o'clock, I could hear the music, and that was from the hospital. So I wondered whether we were getting any comments from people, and what can we do to address that, would be one of my questions. Could you warm up the water in the dunk tank next year, would be another one.
Second that one.
I like the, thank you very much for that. I like the way that you integrated the farmers market into the area around the plaza. It was really what I've seen in other communities when I travel, and I do a lot of riding in the summertime. I like the idea that you're talking about coming up with a schedule ahead of time. Places that I've been, Whitefish, Kalispell, Cody, Wyoming, Jackson Hole, Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, all have central plazas with music booked well ahead, and it becomes a destination. We're going to go there to see this person, or we're going to go there for 3 days and check out the rest of the stuff, and then settle in for a night of music. So I think that that's a really great idea. And in fact, last year I was at Leavenworth, matter of fact, and I'm surprised that there was only 3,000 people, because I was in the impression that they were way bigger than us. Their downtown was so vital, and spent a day kind of wandering around. It was really a good example of what we can be and where we're headed. I love the idea of food trucks. I think that when we passed the mobile vending bylaw, that was the intention, was trying to draw food trucks here. I hope that we do more to facilitate them, encourage them, whether we start inviting them from other communities, Okotoks, High River, those places, and say, come to Drumheller for a weekend and we'll open our doors. Maybe we can look at some input from you and from economic development on how we can make that easier to have those people come into our community, to create a more vibrant plaza downtown without licensing the heck out of them, and hopefully they'll see the future in our community, and then we'll have long-term businesses here to take us through the year. I think the food trucks are a really good way of saying, of people knowing what to expect from revenue in a year, with summer months and stuff, and not looking at the winter, people coming all winter, because we do have a drop-off in our population. I'm not sure I understand how the liquor is going to be phased in. I certainly don't want the town get into liquor sales. However, if there were groups that sponsored it and looked after it and stuff like that, I'd like to see it. I don't want to be in competition with business in town, but rather in partnership with businesses in town, or at least clearing the way to let them have a functioning business. I love the idea of the selfie spot. It's something that Heather talked about numerous times, and I believe we should have more than just ones in the plaza. We should have them all over town. I like that you addressed this year the complaints we had about blocking streets. I think that it was a very good compromise for the community. And I would like to see us tie the events in the plaza to the major events we have in the community as a whole, being that you're an event planner for the community and not a downtown event planner. So things like Springfest, Waynestock, the bike run, those should be all somehow tied into the events that you're doing on those weekends and not a competition to those events. And I believe that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. The issue of monetizing the plaza is not on the printout, but it was on your display, and I'm curious to hear more about what that would look like. Because it sounds like it's really only being thought of in terms of renting vendor space as a source of revenue. And if that's true, then of course then we'd have to be concerned about competition. But I think what's absolutely crystal clear from this is that when you have food and drink options over and above the one vendor that was there, you have more success at the plaza, right? I mean, as someone who's not necessarily a connoisseur of the local music, it doesn't do much for me. I would still go down if I knew I could have a great drink and a nice thing to eat while I was listening to it. And so whether or not we're talking about food trucks, from which we would receive no revenue other than licensing, which I hear what you're saying, Fred, perhaps the more feasible option is renting vendor space. So I would like to see that, but I did want to know, are we committing to never asking the people who attend to pay anything? Does it always have to be free to the user? I think we're going to be told, I'm going to guess, that the Hoodoo parking lot project is going to tell us if we ask people to pay when they see value, they have no trouble with it whatsoever. And so what I'm concerned about is what you didn't do is give me a price tag. You gave me a long list, and we don't, of course, have an unlimited budget. But I don't even know what the price tag is on those things, but I'm certain it's in the hundreds of thousands. Why should if I don't go to the plaza, why should I pay for that? Why shouldn't it be the people who are enjoying the plaza who are contributing? So is there another way? I mean, I don't care if it's a nightly passing of the hat. Pay what you can if you want to, or you earn a token when you volunteer for one of the town's organizations and you pay with that, or whatever we think of. But to monetize the plaza in a way that we're trying to, in everything the town does, help the general taxpayer not pay the whole burden for things they don't necessarily use. And so I'd love to see us view the plaza with that sort of mindset as well, that if if you pass the hat around every night and people put in a toonie, would it drive down the attendance, or would people value more what they pay for? I don't know what the answer is, but vendor space would be so limited, because we're still talking about a very small space, relatively speaking, that there really could only be 2 or 3 of them. And then what other way can you monetize it? Sponsorship is so hard to get. Everybody's looking for it. So I'd love to hear more, not necessarily tonight, about what we could do to continue to try to monetize what's quickly becoming a very important focus, because I don't know what we budgeted for it in 2019, but just from a capital standpoint, to do 5 or 6 of the things that you'd asked for on your list would be, I mean, redoing the surfacing, redoing the stage. I mean, we're still talking about allocating $50,000 to $60,000, perhaps more, just to undo what we did hastily, and then to fund 5 or 10 of the wish list items each year for the next couple of years. We're probably talking about another 50 to 100,000 in all likelihood, just with what things cost when they're going to be outside all year. So that's money that is tough to find, especially if we're just going to ask the taxpayer to bear the full brunt of it again.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I just got a couple. I love this picture, go back, where they had, I mean, not that it has to say bar, go back, wherever that was. No, this one here. That one. Yeah, so I mean, that's fantastic, because you have 4 vendors there, and I'm not sure what that space takes up, but that looks very clean, neat, tidy, and they could all, we could probably set up one area like that against that Napier wall, so I love that. And I like the idea that locals get the chance to rent first. I'm totally in this whole get ahead of the game, because I just had a meeting with that person today, and they said if we had a great big poster that they know they would push people that way, but when those little posters come out, somebody forgets to print them off, and then we just got to encourage businesses to create activities. I know that Jungling Works last summer had a thing outside of her store. That's again creating activities downtown. An idea, just throwing this out there, is that fake grass, maybe part of the plaza till we know what we're doing. And I just love how the plaza is evolving, and it's just becoming a beautiful thing. I just love it. So keep doing what you're doing. Christine.
Sorry, I started looking at that picture and thinking of things. And I was also still digesting what Jay had said as well. I do agree that we should look at ways to try to get funding coming in, like you had suggested. I don't know if charging the people that attend is necessary. I don't know of any other plazas anywhere that do that, and I fear that. But looking at these little guys, like if we had a strip of, I'm assuming that's a storage container turned into potentially 4 vendors. Like if we just gave them really small place to be and charge the vendors, that's one way we could start generating some money. I'm afraid of charging the people. And the other thing about that picture that's really cool is the street art. And so that would be really cool if we had some people able to do some actual very, very nice urban art like that on some of our buildings. But I'm not sure what everybody thinks about that.
I think April's working with somebody on art on one of those walls. And back to Jay's comment, I think you could set up a donation thing, because people have said to me, even last summer when we were running it, well, can we give you $5 or whatever? I think if we created something neat that people could just drop in, and if they want to put in, a toonie or $5 or $20, some people, love the entertainment. They realize the value. So I think that's a great idea, is something that try on a donation form.
Yeah, just to add to that, thank you for your comments. But yeah, charging people to come to a public plaza is very risky. And if one of our main goals is to bring people downtown, we can't be charging people. It's one of the main pushaways. I mean, we raised $700 from the dunk tank, $5 for 3 throws. So that's I think that's pretty impressive. So, and another, I don't know if we added it, but someone did mention to me, and that's a good idea, to have a donation box, because on the second last weekend, some kind person just donated $20 to me just because the plaza was great. So I think a donation box would be the best we could do in terms of charging people, because they could give anything, $2, $20, like, yeah. So if you have anything to add.
Yeah, and I think that all of this, in all of this, we need to work really hand in glove with the downtown merchants to get their input. And ultimately, if we're as Roger Brooks said, if we're bringing people downtown, the next step is to bring them into their door. And so I think, if there are businesses that are running activities, we really need to know about them so we can help them in promotion. And maybe if they're short of ideas, maybe part of what Lucas can do is help them be thinking of ideas, not necessarily doing the activity for them, but helping them to think of ways that they themselves can bring people downtown too, so that it's not always a paid activity where you're having to pay for a band or something like that. I think there has to be a lot more of that if we're going to achieve 250.
Just before I forget my thought, Denise, maybe you could arrange for these guys to give this exact presentation to your guys' downtown. Okay, I didn't want to lose that thought. Fred.
Well, again, thanks for all the comments. One thing I think we really have to remember, and yes, we're always tight on the purse strings, and we know we have a limited budget. And I'm not professing to use reserves, but my goodness, we know from multiple sources that this is a way that we're going to revitalize our downtown. And really, dollar for dollar, it probably ends up costing in the neighborhood of what we spend in shiny, glossy advertising and to promote our town. I think that we're providing, from your statistics there, value for money for our citizens. So if we're looking at what value do we have, yes, we get visitors there from out of town, but 95% of the people that go to the plaza are from the community. We've created something that wasn't there before. And I think we have to keep moving forward. And I think the rest of it, the downtown, the spirit that we can see in some of the old pictures of people downtown and walking around and shopping and making it a social event, could return, but that return is going to take an investment, and we have to be committed to keep moving forward and not stalling out and not looking at the goal in the end.
If I could, since it's been attacked, I'll just be absolutely clear that I would like it if all town operations looked at a way to divest itself of only having one person paying for everything. And so given that, again, there's nothing wrong with asking people to pay something if they can, and there's many different mechanisms. But think about it just even like this, and this is why I hate these discussions, because now I'm into what you should be doing, which is operations. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I mean, if we want the downtown businesses to buy in, for $25 a night, we'll tell them that you're open and it's 10% off tonight and tonight only. And we'll tell it to them 5 times that night. If we are going to shoot for 200 nights, that's $4,100 that we would pull in from sponsorship that didn't come in before for $25 a night. If everybody thinks about that there can't just be one payer all the time, that's all I'm suggesting. And it doesn't take long to come up with other ways than I certainly wasn't expecting we should put in an admissions booth or anything like that. It was never the suggestion. I just want everyone always thinking that these things provide value, and people pay when they see value. They don't object, and we have to find ways to help people pay when they love what we're doing.
Go ahead, Christine.
Yes, I agree with that, Jay. But so kind of the other thing I wanted to say too was going back to the whole concept and the whole branding. It's, if this whole idea could roll out the same time as our concept and our branding, which is unity, right? We could see a unity with the downtown merchants working together with the people of the plaza to try to collectively get people down there. And so as soon as we can have buy-in to that particular concept, I think we'll see a lot more people coming to the plate to play together nicely and not charge people. Thanks.
Tom?
Yeah, I was in Fernie a couple of years ago in the summer, and we were staying at a hotel, and we'd finished our golf for the day, and they actually had people coming around. What? They had people coming around to all of the hotels because they had a summer festival going on downtown. And so they had posters, they had pamphlets, they had all the information, they had discount coupons for some of the food trucks or whatever. So I'm just wondering, how do people in our Dinosaur Trail campground know that there's something on at the plaza on a Thursday night or a Friday night? How do people at the hotels know?
They received an email every week with the poster attached, and they printed them off and they put them up. And for those that weren't able to, we took them down. And by we, I mean Lucas took them down physically so that they were at every single campground and in every single hotel. And we did get really positive feedback from hotels that said, yeah, it was wonderful to be able to tell guests that this was happening, and they did take flyers and they did go. So that's really good, and I hope that answers your question. And I also wanted to answer your question about noise, because I actually never answered your question. So yes, we did have a number of complaints about noise. And what we did to try and remedy it, the reason that it faces west was so that when there's a back on the stage, it should reduce some of the sound that's going towards the residents. The reality is, though, that there is going to be limited ability to reduce the sound if you're having bands beyond what's already been done. And so that comes back to the question of location. And is this the location that we ultimately want it to be? And if not, where?
O2 has its job hands full. Okay. Wow. Any more discussion? Have you got enough information? All right. Sorry, you guys have been pretty quiet tonight. You got anything to add? All right. Well, then I am going to, Dory, can you move Trail Gaps to October 7th? Because I think we all need to stay focused on that one. And we have one more thing, so can I get a motion to go in camera? Christine, Fred, all in favor, carried. I guess I should announce it's land matter.